I took the market cap of the MGLE divided by the market cap of the common, and I basically compared that to LeBron, which I thought was the most efficiently priced because there's the most action on LeBron because you get on the site, you're looking at LeBron's price.
Sure.
And basically what that did is it spit out some outliers, and I just bought them all. I experienced that dip because of this legendary pack drop, had everyone with the paper hands. I love saying paper hands, by the way. I love paper hands. I saw
Diamond hand, Nick.
Diamond hands get diamond bands story. That's what I love about it.
What's cooking, everybody? You remember the movie series The Hangover? Of course you do. The Hangover was hilarious. To this day, you can walk into a bar, drop some one-liners from those movies, and everyone in the bar is going to know what you're talking about, and everyone's going to laugh their asses off. But right now, I want you to think back very specifically to the first Hangover movie and the scene in which Phil, Alan, and Stu returned to the wedding chapel that they had apparently attended the night before. If you remember, when they walked in, the proprietor of the institution, Eddie, greeted them, and Eddie was, to say the least, very excited to see them. And specifically, he looked right at Stu and said something like, "Listen to me. I'm going to tell you something. I've met some sick people in my life, but this guy's the craziest, wildest bastard I ever met. Come here, come give Eddie some love." And he pulls Stu in close, and Stu has absolutely no idea who he was, because Stu was the dad of the crew. I mean, this was the guy that wore glasses and New Balance sneakers, who probably at that point thought a crazy night was falling asleep on the couch with his mouth wide open at 8:15 with an untouched glass of wine sitting right in front of him. This was not the guy who went to Las Vegas to get fucked up and marry a hooker. Yet here we are. I'm joined in the bunker today by the Stu to my Eddie, Nick Gurol, who's probably going to kill me for saying that. But Nick Gurol is a friend of mine from college who I have not seen since college. He was a year or two older than me, graduated before me, and we talk from time to time, but I haven't hung out with him, and I really only remember the Nick Gurol that I knew, which was the guy who usually at about 2 a.m. would hijack the DJ booth and play the song 22 for the 50th time, because apparently he didn't remember the first 49. That's my lasting memory of Nick Gurol. So when this man, this upstanding citizen, molder of young minds, walked in here today with a mustache, a button-down shirt, a DNA tie, and exuding the confidence of a master's degree from Penn educator, I was probably a little bit surprised. But I guess that's called growing up, and it's a beautiful thing to see, so I really appreciate him doing it. Now, why did I bring Nick Gurol in? You're wondering, like, all right, what did we talk about? Nick Gurol texted me about 8 weeks ago and said, "Julian, have you checked out NBA Top Shot, which is the NFT market done by Dapper Labs in coordination with the NBA and the NBA PA? We're going to get to what it is today." And I said, "Yes, I've heard the name. I know NFTs well. I look into that stuff, but I haven't gotten to Top Shot yet." And he says, "Well, maybe you should check it out." I'm like, "I'll get to it." So then a couple weeks ago, about 5-6 friends of mine hit me up, and they tell me the same thing. Right, and I tell them the same thing. Like, I'll get to it. I'm working on some NFT stuff right now, but I'll get to Top Shot. And they're like, "You should really check it out." Then Thursday comes, and Nick hits me up and says, "Listen, man, I just exited the market. I made a fuck ton of money. I know all about it. I've been in it, in the grind. I believe in it. I didn't exit because I don't believe in it. I'll explain why that was, but I think I should come in and we should talk about this on a podcast." And I said, "Absolutely." So I got him in here this weekend. We talked about it, and we're turning it around right away because NBA Top Shot is a term that has taken over the internet, and a lot of people are asking, what the hell is it? Today, we answer that question. Furthermore, though, one other point on this conversation. The reason I love this podcast format and doing this is because we never know where these conversations are going to go. So on this one, I'm thinking, all right, Nick's going to come in here. We're going to talk all about Top Shot and NFTs. And we did for about an hour and 55 minutes. And then out of nowhere, Nick took you into his neurological field, which operates on a completely different level, and started talking about some psychological things. And that one thing led to another, and it turns out the last hour and change of this conversation was a total left turn off the beaten path of NBA Top Shot and NFTs. And I really, really loved it. It's like 2 podcasts in one, in a way. So thank you to Nick for doing it. Very proud of this guy for being such a great leader in society now, and excited to see everything he's doing next. Anyway, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, and leave a like and comment on the video if you would, please. Furthermore, to all the people who have left 5-star reviews with a comment on Apple Podcasts, thank you. I say it every week. They're amazing. They're a huge help. If you haven't had a chance to do that and can take a minute to leave one, I would really, really appreciate it. That said, you know what it is. I'm Julian Dorey, and this is TRENDIFIER. Let's go! This is one of the great questions in our culture. Where is the nuance? You're giving opinions and calling them facts. You feel me? Everyone understands this, but few seem to do it. If you don't like the status quo, start asking questions. Let's get right to it.
Okay.
Because you hit me up, I don't know, like 6 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, Julian, you got to check out this NBA Top Shot. And then I didn't really hear anything about it. I mean, I was following it out of the corner of my eye and not really paying close attention. And then a couple of my buddies, my buddy Mitch hit me up, talking to me all about it like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, but the reason why I told you about it is because Elon Musk, our boy, apparently, because he's on the screen
our boy.
all over the place, he had that Clubhouse thing, right? And I mean, I had no idea what Clubhouse was, but I wanted to hear what he had to say because I thought there was a small chance he would be talking about Top Shot because it's right in the Doge lane. It's right in the Dogecoin lane. So I was like, if he talks about Top Shot, I'm gonna double my investment because we're going to Mars with NBA Top Shot cards. So I got in and like I think I was in a waiting room. I was in Clubhouse Purgatory, and I think it was so like even
I let you in,
and you let me in. Yeah. So I was like, "Thank you, sir."
You're welcome.
And so I listened for a little bit. Became apparent that he was just talking about Mars, which is cool. I'm into that too.
Dude, he talked about Robinhood on there too.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I didn't stay for that, but
that was wild.
But when I got off, I said I got to go to bed because I had to teach the next day, and I just sent you one of my Top Shot moments. And at that point, I was in pretty deep, but not as deep as I got in. And I said, I got some stuff for you. I said something like cryptic because I think I'm very.
I still have the text.
And it was a Giannis dunk, which I still have that one. It's like it was my first big purchase because I bought it for like $750. And so I sent it to you, and I said, I got some stuff for you you'll be interested in. And then we didn't talk for a while. Because I wasn't talking really to anybody.
Yeah, you were busy making money.
I was grinding, and so yeah.
Let's start off by defining NBA Top Shot for people, because now everyone's heard in the wind this being tossed around. No one knows what the fuck it is. So just outline what it is, and we'll start there.
All right. So from the top, NFT, non-fungible token. Okay.
Get used to that.
Fungibility, a fungible item, is something that can be swapped for something of equal value. So $1, you swap for $1, that's fungible. Non-fungible is interesting because you can create scarcity in the sense that a LeBron card moment where 299 are minted, we'll talk about how that works, is worth way more than a Damian Lillard moment. Same scarcity, 299. LeBron's career, his legacy, his demand is much higher. So that's what makes it non-fungible. How do they create that scarcity? They create that scarcity through the blockchain. So just like Topps has printing presses and ink and things that no one else has access to make trading cards, this Dapper Labs has something called the Flow blockchain. That's their printing press, which is not actually a printing press.
And Dapper Labs is who controls NBA Top Shot.
Dapper Labs, put a pin in that. Dapper Labs controls NBA Top Shot because they own the Flow blockchain, which is essentially a token, and it's a non-fungible token because it is printing these moments. And that's creating the scarcity. So the Flow blockchain is essentially like you have a Bitcoin is equal to the same Bitcoin. But in the
Right.
Flow blockchain, the LeBron moment is worth more than the Damian Lillard moment.
And it's also, if there's 299 LeBron moments, you own a number. So maybe you own number 1, maybe you own number 25 of it, but you own it's not a serial mark, but in the parallel universe of blockchain, you own a serial marked
Yeah,
data
they're called
point
serial
of
numbers.
this.
They're called serial numbers.
Okay, so they still do call it that then. Okay. And when you keep on talking about the moment and these videos, but it really is boiled down to this company, Dapper Labs, creating these NBA Top Shot moments, which the moments are the videos, and they are just angles of plays that you have seen on TV. So maybe it's just a ho-hum play that happened, therefore it's not worth that much and no one was involved, or it's LeBron dunking or LeBron chasing down Andre Iguodala in Game 6 or Game 7 of the NBA Finals in 2016, which obviously could be worth a lot. When you get the digital version of it. So you receive a video, and there's a lot of people out there going, what the fuck, like I could just get that on YouTube.
Yeah.
But you receive it with it's multiple different camera angles. I think some of them never spliced together that way before in broadcast. I'm not positive on that, but we'll check that. And you also, you get the official trademarked NBA Top Shot logo on it. So it's the same thing as like if you...
And it's licensed by the NBA.
Correct.
That's the big thing.
Correct. So if you hung a picture of LeBron James on your wall today, right, or 10 years ago, if you hung right next to it, even forget the size difference, if you hung right next to it a rookie card made by Topps of LeBron James,
Yes.
that rookie card's worth a lot of money. Your picture's not.
Yeah, because really, I mean, if you get a printer that you can access on Amazon, you can print a printer like that if you get the right paper and the right ink. Topps has specific printers that only they own, specific ink that only they own. Flow is a specific code, blockchain technology that only Dapper Labs owns. And the NBA has decided to back the Flow blockchain.
And the NBA PA.
And the NBA PA. And the NFL PA. And whoever owns Dr. Seuss. And Samsung. Dapper Labs is going to take over the internet. I'm telling you.
The NFL's doing Top Shot?
Oh, yeah. I would say within the next 2 years. The NFL is not a partner, but the NFLPA is. If you go on Dapper Labs' website, this is where I'm getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
You scroll down, our community members, so that right now, in the works, you can sign up for UFC Top Shot. You can sign up for Dr. Seuss Top Shot, which I am because I'm a sick, twisted individual.
No, wait, how does Dr. Seuss?
I'm not sure what it is. So another layer to this is like Top Shot is not in its final. It's not even in its final form.
It's nascent.
Eventually, these moments are going to be more interactive because that's another layer. Like if I have LeBron rookie's card, it's probably in a vault, and I'm never going to see it if it's 10 out of 10, right? I never get to interact with it. I just own it, and it's just money in a bank. Whereas the LeBron moment, so I own this LeBron moment. It's a no look 3, right? I watch it all the time. It's like, because I think it's really cool, and it's like a cool little thing. I can watch it over and over and over again. Eventually, I should be able to take that moment based on what I've been told through like Discord channels and stuff, and use it in like a fantasy lineup, an NBA fantasy lineup. So I can slot in my LeBron no look 3. And then if LeBron,
What do you mean an NBA fantasy lineup?
So there's going to be some type of interactive game with Top Shot called Hardcourt. No one knows what it is yet.
Okay.
So this Hardcourt, and there's some third-party ones. One's called Swish. I already think it tanked. But with Swish, I'll just use their rules because I think they're going to be close to what the rules will be for the actual Dapper Labs version of this. Which is like if you had a 3-point player, you could slot in a LeBron 3-point. If he scores a 3-point in the game, you get points to your lineup. So
if he scores a 3-pointer in the actual NBA game going on in real life.
Yeah.
So you use your moment as access to it.
Yes.
But people own all different moments of LeBron James. So don't a lot of people own LeBron James?
But it's the same thing like DFS, right? So like daily fantasy sports, like anybody can build a lineup using a salary. Instead of having a fixed salary, you have to go and buy the moment beforehand.
It like creates its own league. It's like virtual league.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily going to take off quite as well as you might think because DFS already has that type of like itch cornered.
Yeah.
Whereas I've heard another iteration of it could be like I can take my moments to an NBA game and there's like some type of like Pokemon Go element where I'm capturing my own moments and sending them to the site. I don't know where it's going, but there's a lot of interactiveness there that doesn't exist in the cardboard market.
Okay.
Where like it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! You can play, like Pokemon, like there's going to be some aspect of that's going to fuel the base of this. Where like people are like, they don't really care about the scarcity. They don't really care. Like they're just buying 1, 2, 3, like $20 moments. That's like the bottom of the food chain.
Okay. Wow. There's a lot of directions we can go right now. I want to stay with the beginning. Mm-hmm. Just tell me when you found out about this and how you got into it. And, you know, are you an NBA fan? How did you make buying decisions? Let's start there.
Okay. So January-ish, mid-January, I follow this guy on Twitter. His name's Jonathan Bales. Jonathan Bales, I started following him like right out of college. I got really into, like, after college, I got really into fantasy sports. DFS, like FanDuel, that type of stuff, like really started taking off. And I got into it. I've never been super profitable, but it's just fun for me. Like I like the math behind it. I like watching football, so I was really into that. So I followed him a lot. He created this thing called Fantasy Labs, which I actually never subscribed to, but I think it's a cool idea. It's basically a site that allows you to manipulate data and like will spit out good plays in daily fantasy. It's a big site now. He sold it to the Chernin Group, and he's really just kind of like an investor now, like a venture capitalist, whatever you want to call it. So he writes this newsletter, and it's called Lucky Maverick. And in this newsletter, he just gives out like some cool books he's been reading, like ways of thinking about certain things. And one day he wrote this article. I just bought a $35,000 video that you can watch on YouTube. So I read it. He talked about, like, he kind of laid out his kind of creed for investing and how this fit and checked all the boxes. He talked about NFTs. I was like, that's cool. Sent it to my buddy Alex. Sent the article. I was like, this looks pretty cool.
What was his logic there? Because, you know, you hear the title and he's trying to get the clicks there to be able to show, like, yeah, that's literally what I did. And then people go, well, this must be worth nothing. But clearly to him, it's not. So what was he saying it was worth?
It checked a lot of boxes for him in the sense of, like, the scarcity's there. He could see, like, the world's going digital. He saw, like, the cardboard market blew up. This is just a digital version of that. And with that digital version comes more efficiency. It's way more efficient in the sense of, like, buying and selling is more liquid. With the cardboard market, you have to get graded. You have to wait for eBay. You have to wait for mailing. Like, this is just a more efficient. And because things move faster, prices can go up faster. So aside from that, like, he had other things and layered in, but I can't say that I bought in right away. But my buddy did. He bought 10 packs. And you
define a pack for people.
And a pack is like, it's like a pack of baseball cards. When you buy a pack, you take it, you open it up, and it spits out some moments, and you click on them, and they reveal themselves. And then you see what you got. So he got 10 Series 2 packs. And at the time, I mean, they're $9. They're still $9, but it's very hard to get them now. Getting 10 is impossible and probably will be impossible for the rest of the lifetime of the site.
Because how many do they make? Like, can I just go on? Are there other kinds of packs I can go on right now and I can... No.
Okay, so they're doing them like sneaker drops, where you get in a waiting room and then you get a random spot in line. And if you're within the number that they're releasing, you get one. If not, you don't get one.
And then you have to go to the secondary market to buy anything.
Then if you don't get a pack, you go to the secondary market. And that's where Dapper's making their money. And that's where people like me were making their money, is the secondary market.
Now, the secondary market is like StockX. It's like the stock market. It's just these moments trade by, moment. It runs for 24 hours a day.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I mean, they're in beta still. So the market will go down. And sometimes the market goes down because I think there's legitimate site status issues. But in my experience, the market has gone down at some pretty inconvenient times. But
funny how that happens.
Yeah. But it's framed in a way that they're in beta. They've been very transparent and honest about everything. Like, when Robinhood goes down and they don't allow trading, that's a pretty big problem. But when this goes down, like, they talk about why. And I think every time that that's gone down, they've actually had a pretty good reason. But I think I'm just kind of assigning some meaning to some things because I really wanted to either not sell a moment that sold when it went down, or I wanted to sell some moments because I was like, I want to get rid of this one. But yeah, so that's how I got in. So my buddy bought 10 packs. I didn't get in right away. 2 weeks later, I don't know what triggered
How do you
it.
get 10?
They were just sitting on the site. Back then, in January 14th, which is a month and a half ago.
Demand wasn't there yet.
Just sitting on the site. And so about 2 weeks later, it started to pick up a little bit. So after the Bales article, $35,000, it like the DFS community got in. So like the fantasy football, very active Twitter community. And so like all the content creators started getting into it. And that I kind of got in with them.
How many of these people do you think, or do you know, seem to be NBA fans versus they were just looking at a good trend where there's supply and clear demand?
The NBA fans are just now getting into it. When I got in, it was NFT heads, crypto heads. It was people like me. I won't even say that I was looking to make a quick buck. I just saw that I saw an opportunity for an edge. And if I doubled my money, great. If I lost it, I went into it with like, I'm going to learn a lot about how markets work. And so I was okay. And like my friend who invested with me, and then later my uncle could just tell how excited I was about it. So he helped us out a lot. We call his investment jet fuel. So like I was just into it. But I'm not an NBA fan. I'm still not an NBA fan. Like I want to get into it, but at the same time, like the NBA fans are just now getting into it. And the funny thing is NBA itself has not advertised it at all. They have not themselves run an ad since January 20th. So when
they were running ads before
they were doing
then.
Instagram and YouTube ads, and they only did them for about a week because after the Bales article, there was a mini influx. It cooled down for about 2 weeks. And then Mark Cuban wrote an article. Gary Vee wrote an article. Logan Paul talked about it on his podcast. Who was it? Barstool, PMT started talking about it. Like, that's where we are now. And I don't know if you can show a graphic or if I can show you a graphic.
What site is it on?
It's just a text. I'll just have to text it to you. It's
yeah, I'll put it. I'll put it in the screen. So just tell me what it says.
So it's like it's a graph, and it literally looks like Mount Everest. It spikes. I got in at the bottom of the foothills, and I sold up here.
Yeah.
And so
now is the spike still happening?
No, it's down. But that's just because they're not able to produce enough supply for the demand that there is right now. So all the money's tied up in Top Shot, and it's just funneling into the more scarce stuff. So right now,
when you say more scarce stuff, specifically,
so there's two series. There's Series 1 and Series 2. Series 1 obviously is more valuable than Series 2 for a couple of reasons. They didn't make as many Series 1s because they print the amount that they print on their common moments is based on the number of users interacting with the site. So a common Series 1, the mint number on it is out of 5,000. Because when they printed Series 1, there were only about 3,000, or sorry, there might have only been like 10,000 people.
Hence why your buddy got 10 packs when he went on. Yeah.
Now, Series 2, the denominator mint number was 15,000. Okay? That's not enough anymore. The next round that they're going to do, Series 3, is going to be at least 25,000. So every common moment that's printed, because there's common, there's rare, there's legendary, and then there's going to be ultimate. Yeah.
So as an example, just to be clear, when you're saying common to legendary and there's rare in the middle, legendary would be that example I gave of like the chase down block LeBron on Iguodala.
The actual play itself is not assigned a rarity. Okay, so there can be 3 versions of the same play at different tiers of rarity. So that's one of the edges that I found.
Now, what are they? Okay, so let's stay with the LeBron chase down block example on Iguodala. So there's a common, there's a rare, and there's a legendary. What's the difference between them?
The scarcity. And
right, but what's the difference in the product?
There's a visual difference as well. So the rare version of the moment will have this like neon box around the front of it. It's a little shinier. The logo on the side has color, where the common moment is just like, it's like a matte black, but you can tell it's like Lakers. And then it's just like, if you go on the site and look, like, you can tell which ones are fancier and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't play around at the higher levels of rarity. Basically made my money in Series 1 common.
Now, how do you concept this from the value of having it standpoint? And what do I mean by that in English? When you buy a LeBron rookie card, Gem Mint 10, whatever, something really high end for hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, you have the physical card. Right now, is that something that I've ever been really, really into, like having like, ooh, I got a sports card or something? Personally, no, but I completely get that because people can frame it, they can hang it on their wall. If they have people over, they show them. Same way that, you see some of these very wealthy people around the world, they collect art, right? They put it on their fucking walls. Or maybe they put some of it in a vault because they're tax harvesting or hiding from taxes, whatever. But a lot of it's like, oh, I have this. This is a part of my lifestyle, my decor. When you are buying a Top Shot moment, though, you don't have it physically. You have it on your computer. And if I'm understanding correctly, this is built, the Flow protocol is built on the Ethereum blockchain. So your assets are stored in a digital wallet, much like a lot of people store their Bitcoin or Ethereum or other cryptocurrency on Coinbase or a centralized exchange that gives them a wallet there. That's not officially like a separate wallet, but it's a digital wallet. So with Top Shot, it's the same, right?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the interesting things about it because like that's one of the things about non-fungible tokens that I don't think people fully grasp yet, at least from my understanding, is I'm going to be able to take my Top Shot moments off of the Top Shot site.
Yes.
So if you look at
like you can take a Bitcoin off of Coinbase.
Yes,
same thing.
If you look at Coinbase's, I guess it's Coinbase wallet. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but there is a tab for collectibles.
Yeah.
I'm very new to crypto.
Yep.
This is my introduction to crypto. I'm going to be able to have my Top Shot moments in this Coinbase wallet. But this also makes it really cool. But like if a third party app wants to create a game around Top Shot moments, I'm going to be able to take my Top Shot moments to that site. I'm going to have them be able to interact with that site without the worry of them being ripped and copied.
What do you mean a third-party app wants to create a game around my moment?
So like if a third-party app, so there's this one called Swish. If a third-party app wanted to create a fantasy game that is based off of Top Shot moments, they set up their own set of rules. They set up everything. Like I'm going to be able to take them to that site and have them live on that site and interact with that site.
That's what I'm having trouble concepting, though. They're making up a fantasy, let's stay with the basketball example, a fantasy basketball game around moments that already happened. So it's essentially...
That's tough to grasp. I'm not going to lie.
That's my point. When you're playing fantasy basketball, you are, and if you're in a league for money like we all are, you are betting on what you don't know happens yet.
Yeah.
You're not betting on who has the biggest dick around here and could buy the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it inserts a lot of capitalism into it where it used to be a pure gambling / skill.
That's
right?
why I don't think this particularly is going to be a good use of an NFT outside of the collectible realm. I think like the real ceiling for NFTs is the collectible realm. It's going to get that, but also the interactive kind of aspect of it. So I think that's like...
What's the interactive aspect?
So it's hard to imagine that with Top Shot because of what you described.
That's what I'm asking
but
on Top Shot. Yeah.
Let's go back to the Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
That one is probably going to be less collectible heavy and more interactive heavy. So I don't even know. So like, let's say I buy the Lorax, right? Whatever this NFT site is like, and it's going to be for kids, like they're going to be able to use that Lorax like a Fortnite skin. So like they're monetizing in a way more intense way, like the idea of that kids want to buy digital collectibles.
They want to have their, what was the old game where you modeled stuff? Sims, I think.
Yeah.
They want to have their Sims online where they're playing their video games and stuff. I had Cole Kennelly in here back in the end of December, and it was the first episode in January. And obviously, he is a hacker on the Ethereum blockchain, has his own protocol, really killing it, volmex.finance. He essentially built a volatility index for Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain. So he took what they do with the S&P in the stock market with the vol index and built it there. And it's a pretty incredible product. But he was the guy who really got me looking into NFTs. And like I said, Top Shot is one. It's kind of a separate thing. I haven't looked at that as much, but I look at NFTs a lot. And that was the first example he gave. He said, when you're talking about owning assets in a digital world where you are interacting in the world, you're going to own that. So in the video games, if you're playing Madden and you own this type of jersey, like let's just use something ridiculous like that, you own it. No one else does. And it can't, the video game maker who allows the graphic to happen has no ownership over it. It can't take it from you. That's it. It can't be fucked with.
Yeah.
So with Top Shot, it's the YouTube video concept. It's not like you're owning skins in Fortnite. You own a YouTube video that has a NBA Top Shot logo on it.
Yeah.
So the interactivity, I guess the fantasy is one side of it, but is there anything else you can do beyond that?
As of right now, no, other than watching it. It's purely a collectible.
So back to the original part where I started this part of the conversation right here. Physical items you can put on your wall, have in front of you, be able to show you got them. It's like, sociable in that way. I mean, are you whipping out, like, people don't come to your house and see on your wall your moment necessarily, although I'm sure that's going to be a more normal thing where we used to have
digital frames.
Exactly, where we have digital frames. So seeing as we don't have that world yet, a lot of the investors who maybe actually know what they're doing, not just the people running into the pig pile, are they buying on the basis of that's the world that's going to be existing, so they want it now? Is that what you think?
I just think they understand that people will want to collect these. They're not as worried about displaying them. I thought about like how to display them. I thought about the digital frames. I think it's enough to know that like, hey, look me up. My Top Shot username is Stranger. Go look at my moments. But
is that really your name?
Yeah, Stranger.
That's incredible.
Yeah. In Top Shot itself, like you can make a showcase. So like it itself is a little bit of a social media platform. Yeah. And I think they'll flesh that out a little bit.
So they do this on the Flow protocol on the Ethereum blockchain, like we said. But you transact everything on the website.
Yeah.
Right? So you go in there, it's just like if someone went into StockX and they looked at the charts and then they saw a price for a product they wanted, they hit buy, right? How does it work? Do you get your information right there? Can you see what your code is on the blockchain and what your numbers are? Okay. And it is technically a centralized exchange though, because they're the New York Stock Exchange of Top Shot.
Yeah.
Right? So hypothetically, the exchange itself could be hacked.
I mean, I guess I don't really have the technical know-how. I think I'm trusting, when I was investing, I was trusting that like the idea of blockchain was more secure than, I just think that like that itself is a very secure technology.
I agree with you. Comparatively speaking, certainly. Depending on the context of what you're looking at, but certainly. But like when you look back at crypto, that's a major question and concern around Coinbase that a lot of people have had. And
probably a big blind spot of mine, honestly.
I mean, look, back in the day, people who were early in Bitcoin know about Mt. Gox and what happened there. Mt. Gox was an exchange.
I got no idea what you're talking about.
So Mt. Gox was a centralized exchange. Think of it just like Coinbase, right? Coinbase before Coinbase. And it crashed and burned, and there were, I think it was, we can check this after, but I think there were something like 850,000 Bitcoins stolen from there, just taken off because they weren't on their own wallet. Just like how on Coinbase right now, if you have some assets there, which I actually do have some assets on Coinbase, I know that that's technically not in my own wallet. So now I'm working on getting everything to my own wallet.
So like on the thing that has the 20-word password that the guy lost, and now he's shit out of luck.
It's essentially like it's like putting it on a hard drive. It's very bizarre to concept it. It's like a weird thing, but you own it in the ether on your own physical product. It puts the personal responsibility on you. So people are going to be doing that, already are, with NBA Top Shot. I have heard about that. But this, the execution is very interesting to me because it's happening almost like you would expect things to happen, and I mean this in a simple way, like you did in 2008 or 2009, in the sense that if you wanted to go, just like Amazon today, if you want to go buy something on Amazon, well, you know, we have apps and everything too, which they'll have an app as well where you can do it, but you just go to the website and you buy it there, and that's all you're doing here, and they just happen to take care of the back end where you own it according to the blockchain protocol.
Yep, that's my understanding. And yeah, I mean, it can be, I mean, there's a chance it could be hacked. There's a chance that my bank account could be hacked. Like,
probably better chance.
I was just going to say, like, I have a pretty, I'm not going to tell you what my bank is. Never mind. But yeah, so this, another reason to be bullish on Top Shot is they've been attacked pretty hard by bots. So the same bots that are buying up all the sneakers, the same bots that are buying up everything, they've done better in my experience and in my research than many other sites at combating that.
How do you combat that?
I don't know. I think they have people smarter than the people making the bots.
So the people making the bots, are you talking about people who are essentially building high-frequency trading algorithms to do this versus bad actors who are just coming in there to fuck shit up?
So there's, you named two. So there's bots that are trying to buy all the packs who are quickly creating multiple IPs so they look like they're on multiple computers, multiple accounts, because one account, one pack is basically how you do it. So today there was a pack drop, 10,000 rare packs, expected value on one, $99 to buy. Expected value is, it's probably $2,000 to $4,000. It's a very good lottery ticket, essentially. So if you,
how many people were waiting for those 10,000?
203,000.
So 10,000 people got them.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, like the one of the moments was a rare moment that would fetch at least $1,000. And I kind of lost my train of thought here. What am I thinking? Oh, bots. They were going to do it yesterday, but bots got to the site and they didn't release the pack because there was too much bot activity. So the idea is that like 10,000 people, early days in Top Shot, they released like 50,000 packs. And if you got one, you could get back in line and get another one. And they'd release these cool pie charts that show like, these are the number of unique accounts that got packs. See this big block? That's bots. We're going to handle it. So bots got to the site. As far as pack
so they can take it from them.
Not take it from them, but they basically don't let them do anything with them.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding. I think that's the way that they're punishing the bots, but since then, bots can't even do that. At least in my experience, and if they are doing it, it's being hidden very well. There's other bot activity where I think that I took advantage of it, is they were buying up the floor. So they bought up the floor, and
meaning where the prices got to a support point.
Mm-hmm. They bought up the floor, and then I think recently dumped for whatever margin they wanted. And they just did that kind of before this hits mainstream, I think, because eventually I think there's going to be so many people on this that buying up the floor is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
For one like bot or multiple bots to do. But yeah, so they've done a great job with that, which gives me confidence in like their technical know-how. They're very smart people, and they also have like if you look at they have their investors, it's everybody, man. Like all the big players.
Do you see their valuation? It's at Dapper Labs is at a $2 billion valuation. They just raised $250 million last week. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. With these projects, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to understate those numbers. Those are fucking huge numbers for a non-public company to raise. And especially considering, I think their last raise was like $12 million. And I want to say it was like 3 months ago. It was not long ago.
And their secondary market, they get 5% of it.
Okay, we'll definitely circle back to that later. We'll miss some things that we're coming back to because there's a lot of moving pieces here, but I want to hit as much as we can.
Yeah.
So they raised that much money. One of the major keys there is not like, were they going to get it? They were going to get it. If you've watched the last month and seen the the spread of the network effects here. Like you talked about how the NBA only advertised it on some Instagram ads and stuff for like a week and then they stopped. I think, and there's one of two things that happen here, and give me your thoughts. On the one hand, like anything else in the world, the NBA's lawyers may have come in and said, hey, we don't know enough about whatever yet. This insert small little thing here, so don't say anything. And the market's doing well, just don't say anything. That could be one thing. The other thing is that could have been a coordinated planned thing in that they're playing off of the scarcity of what the product is that they sell, which is this scarce product, and doing the same thing by saying, oh, no, we don't talk about that. Same thing that you've seen with Clubhouse do in a totally different light, where Clubhouse
exclusivity,
exactly, they make people have to join the app, like be invited to join the app.
So are you asking me like the reason they stopped advertising, like why?
Yeah, one of those two. Do you think
they had a team of 10 people plus the founder working on this, and they had a user base of 10,000? This blew up way faster than they thought it would. So they stopped advertising to slow the flux of users so they could scale up. When I got in, after the $35,000 Ja Morant article, there was about a 12-hour window that I got in.
What was the Ja Morant article?
It was the Bales.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, Bales wrote the article. He basically got the daily fantasy community into it.
That's the video.
I came in with them. And then in between that, like it was a Sunday, about 12 hours, 2 moments sold for $100,000. And that created a hockey stick. And I was lucky enough to get in right before the hockey stick, to a certain degree. It hockey sticked up, and then it kind of came back down.
And where are we? Do you have a percentage on that, where we stand right now?
Percentage of what?
Like how far down it's come off the top?
Oh, that was just initial. We've gone nuclear since then.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically they had a day where they did 7 million in sales, which was a big day. A couple things happened. Basically, they weren't able to scale up. Their servers were literally on fire. They shut down marketing. They kind of slowed everything down on purpose. And new users were still coming in, buying stuff up. It was a real fun time on the site. But it really hit it almost bottomed out, like not quite completely, but it bottomed out to where like my account value went down a couple $1,000s. And because they tried to do a pack drop and they just botched it. And it was a legendary pack drop. So it was $1,000 for a pack. And I think they had there were 1,000. There were 1,000 packs.
What were some example moments in there? Just to put a visual on it for an NBA fan.
It was Series 2. I'm trying to think of a good one. Maybe...
was that where LeBron's dunk was that went for like $200K on the secondary?
That was Series 1. This one was like an Anthony Davis dunk. Like good plays. But the big thing was like the scarcity, right?
When they drop this, though, like they do a drop like that with the legendary, isn't it a lot of different plays?
Yeah, it's a ton of different plays.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just one.
No, so there were like 10 hollow icon Series 2 moments. Like there was another Ja Morant in there. There was just like the big players get big plays, and it was like some of their best plays, really scarce, only 50 were made. Plus it comes with 9 other moments, and some of those are rare. So it's a very good pack. The expected value on it was absolutely insane. So everybody wanted one. So they do the pack drop, and they did a couple stress tests before. They did a couple practice runs where they dropped like 5,000 common packs just to test this new queue system. Everything was looking good, but they small little coding hiccup, right? They did not anticipate people going back to the landing page to join the drop after they joined the drop. And if you went back to the landing page after you joined the drop, you just were able to buy. You were able to skip the line. So thankfully, like enough, there weren't enough. Bots didn't get to it, thankfully, but a couple people got like 8, right? Which is just printing money, like for free. And they didn't take them away from anybody. It was their fault. They acknowledged it, but like a faith in the site kind of dropped a little bit. The marketplace really cooled down. People started dumping moments. I almost had those.
When was this?
This was early February.
Okay.
Probably and like second week in February.
Got it.
I almost had those paper hands, Julian. I almost had those paper hands.
You got diamond hands, Nicholas.
But what I actually did was I bought in more at the dip because I was like,
diamond hands,
yeah.
baby.
And what I did was, this is where I think this was like my peak, like of being into it, is I took the rare. So like I said, they have one moment can have a legendary, a rare, and a common counterpart, and that's the core sets. Okay.
Okay.
So there's the base set is the first core set. Then you have the metallic gold LE. There's the rare version of the base set, and then you have the hollow icon. Okay.
So the more legendary ones, the rarer ones look a lot prettier.
And they're scarcer, and people just want
Got
them. The big sell is a scarcity.
Yep.
So you can have. I'm trying to think of a specific play that I looked at. So there's a Steph Curry 3, right? This is a good example that I can think of. It's before the bubble, so there's a big crowd. He pulls up from like, I don't even know, what is a 3-pointer? How many feet?
25 feet.
25 feet. He pulls up from probably like 35. It's a deep 3. Just like catch, boom, just patented Steph Curry, just dagger.
Yeah.
Turns around, gives like this, like the 3. He's wearing these crazy shoes, like sticks his tongue out. It's an awesome moment. Okay. So that, when I bought it, was like, it was like, I don't know, like $100.
And when did you buy that?
I bought that at the beginning of February. Right now, look it up. Look up a Steph Curry base set series 1 3-pointer.
Steph Curry. What's it? Base set?
Mm-hmm. NBA Top Shot.
3-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
NBA Top Shot. Yeah, the price action on some of this stuff is nuts. Let's see. Pull it up behind you there. That's the moment.
That's the one.
So this is number 718. I
Yep.
guess that's just the one I clicked.
Look for available.
76 available by collectors.
Yeah, you
click
click
that.
on that. Yep. $3,450, ladies and gentlemen.
Highest price, $200,000. So that means that someone has put out their limit sale at $200,000. So they're just a little bit pipe dream right there, but maybe not.
Yeah,
And then the
I mean-
lowest available price is $3,450.
Yeah. So, other than like, I mean, obviously, like I said, I was early, so I was able to buy up all these things. But at the time, I was like, "What do you buy?" So what I did was I took the rare version of that play, because there's a rare version of that one, and I looked at the price of that and I said, "Okay, so these rare moments, the people that are playing around in this tier probably know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they're putting this type of money in, they probably have some type of algorithm or something. So I'll take that one, and I'll just do some math. And I made a spreadsheet, and I basically took the market cap of the rare one. I took the price times the scarcity. I took the market cap of the common, and then I divided them. And then I used LeBron as kind of like my base point, basically, like, because I thought LeBron was the most efficiently priced.
You divided them by the total supply.
I divided them by each other. I took the market cap of the MGLE divided by the market cap of the common, and I basically compared that to LeBron, which I thought was the most efficiently priced because there's the most action on LeBron, because you get on the site, you're looking at LeBron's price.
Sure.
And basically what that did is it spit out some outliers, and I just bought them all.
So what were some outliers you bought?
I ended up with all like Steph Curry, Joel Embiid was a big outlier, Jokic was a big outlier, Kevin Durant was a big outlier, James Harden was a big outlier.
And you're talking like all mid-January right now, end of January, beginning of February?
This is early February.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, turns out like I think I'm like this super sharp guy, but again, anything Series 1 skyrocketed. So,
How much money did you put into this?
So I put in myself about $3,500. My buddy who had the packs originally, we valued those appropriately, and then he put in like another $1,600. And then my uncle had some Bitcoin lying around because he got burnt. He got burnt when it went from, I think, 13,000 back down to whatever.
Not anymore, though.
Not anymore, but he just had like a few $100 sitting around in his Coinbase wallet. He's older, not as bought into crypto. He's like, oh, I got now $3,500 worth of Bitcoin just lying in my Coinbase wallet that I forgot about. He's like, here, use it. So all said, we're a little over 8K, maybe 9K.
Got
overall.
It. Okay, so you guys are like a consortium going in there. And I also like this because you're not, you look at things like this, and people always bring up the word bubble. I definitely want to talk about that later because I think there's a lot of nuance to these situations, and it's also nascent, so we can't really tell on everything yet. But it's not like you went in and said, you know what, I'm going to put 100 grand in this. I'm going to put 150 grand.
No, I didn't have that.
Yeah. You went in and you said, okay, well, what are some assets I'm willing to lose here because this is fucking interesting, and let's see what happens.
So I put 8K in with my friend and my uncle, right? And my thought was like, I think there's a pretty big edge to be had here. I think that we're gonna make some money, at the very least. But I also think I want to learn how this works. And it kind of like incorporated a lot of different things I'd been reading about. It incorporated a lot of different things that I was interested in. So I was like, what the hell? I'm just sitting around, and I just looked at it as a learning opportunity. And I mean, there was the underlying thing. I was like, I think I can make a lot of money off of this. So I experienced that dip because of this legendary pack drop, had everyone with the paper hands. I love saying paper hands, by the way. I love paper hands. I saw
Diamond hand, Nick.
Diamond hands get diamond bands story. That's what I love about it. So I held through that, and I actually invested. I did the little MGLE versus common base thing. With the spreadsheet. And I actually, a funny story about that. So when I was doing all that math and stuff, I had to manually look up all the prices. If you try to do that now, the market moves so fast that would probably not be very
your
very
tables
viable.
your tables just aged in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I actually am still trying to learn Python, like web scraping. I want to make that spreadsheet I made just to see if I could do it. I don't even know if it's valuable anymore, but I'm close to getting it so that the lowest ask price would update live, but they're tricky. Scraping NBA Top Shot is not an easy task. Someone listening to this probably knows how to do it. Hit me up.
Well, that's what they're building. It's in the same family of bot activity. They're trying to build against that. They want to build an efficient marketplace where people create a value on something because you're not like a huge regular markets guy, right? You're not like a stock market guy.
No, I'm a middle school science teacher.
Yeah. So basically, if you look at the markets that we know, the major disruption that happened that created the markets we know now off of the ones that were, say, around 15 years ago or even a little before then was the high frequency trading. And if people ever read The Big Short or saw the movie, the same guy who wrote that, Michael Lewis, writes a lot of finance books, and they're incredible. And one that he wrote back in maybe like 2012, 2013, something like that, was called Flashboys, where he outlined this movement and how this happened. And motherfuckers were building fiber optic cabling underneath like the mountains in Pennsylvania to get from Minnesota to New York in 1 nanosecond versus a nanosecond and a half to be able to trade very quickly.
Yeah.
So when you see these other marketplaces rising up, like sneakers, collectibles, items, things like that, the places that create these exchanges, the companies that do it, their incentive, you hope, is for the love of the game and the love of the space that they're in and actively promoting that market. So they're going to want to create an environment where people are not just taking advantage of the math around it, and they're more or less actually valuing, like, what is the value of the thing I'm buying mean to me, and therefore setting the market price that way.
And I think the people coming into the market now are coming in to buy moments with that mindset. They're not coming in trying to figure out, like, what's the edge here? Like, how can I get a quick flip? Which, a couple of different reasons why I think, again, I'm still bullish on Top Shot is, one, they pay attention to the market dynamics and they care about the health of the market. They are doing things actively to maintain the health of the market, but while also letting people like make money off of it. And then at the same time, they're also they want the collector. They want the NBA fan in. They do not want the bots. They do not want the quick flip. You know what I mean? And
what about guys like you, though? Because you're not necessarily an NBA fan.
I mean, I'm honestly, like, I took advantage of it.
Sure.
But when I was in it, I was participating in the community. I was on the Discords. I was super interested. I was DMing community managers. I was like, I played the game the way they wanted me to play it. I'm just leaving probably before they want me to leave.
And why are you leaving?
Because I don't look at the moments, and like, I don't get that. Like, I'm not an NBA fan. If I was if this was NFL, this would be it for me. Like,
so when the NFL comes around,
I'm
look the
all
fuck
in.
out.
Yeah, that's
Stranger.
the thing. Like I'm into that. I just don't. I'm not gonna watch the NBA because of Top Shot. So yeah,
That's interesting. So the appeal of it, even though there's a lot of money floating around, and the concept, the allure is that there's money to be made. And we know that works both ways, especially with markets that heat up too fast or whatever. You, at the end of the day, you know, a month and a half in, have the realization that like, hey, this was interesting to learn these concepts and get into this world and get used to it, but I'm not just going to become an NBA fan, so therefore I don't necessarily want to participate in this anymore.
Yeah, and plus it was a grind. It was a big grind. Like,
how much time were you spending on it?
I mean, I teach about 6 to 7 hours a day, so I wasn't doing it during then. Although that one spreadsheet I did, I was proctoring a test, and so I was grinding it while I was working. That's the only time I did that. And my kids, their test grades for that they broke records. So it did not affect my students. Whoever's watched this, it did not affect my students' ability to succeed. Trust me. If anything, I just left them alone and they did better. But yeah, so outside of that, I mean, my girlfriend can attest to this. It consumed me. Like, I mean, I lost some weight because I would like forget to eat. So like probably 3 hours a night at least, conservatively.
And I mean, you talk about building the spreadsheets and stuff, but beyond that, you are just watching market action to be able to build those spreadsheets.
Watching market action, but like heavily involved in like private discords with like other users that were in early on, like watching what they're talking about, adding in my own stuff, like sharing my spreadsheets and like having people like check it, like checking other people's spreadsheets, like just being a member of the community, like took up a lot of my time. And for me, like the profits to be made, because that's why I got into this in the first place.
Money.
Now that I've learned how it works to a certain extent, at least to a point where I'm satisfied. Now that it's like the money to be made versus the grind, it's just like if I keep grinding, I'm not going to see the same type of return. You know what I mean? So like to me, if I were an NBA fan, like it would kind of close that gap for me a little bit, but I'm just not. So, right. I mean, and then again though, I am kind of getting a little bit as the market's dipping a little bit. Like I'm starting to see that edge come back again. I might dip my toe back in, but I mean, for the most part, I have my like 5 moments that I think I didn't sell them because I didn't think it was a good time to sell them. But I think
how many moments did you buy and sell, like in the course of 6-8 week period?
I had 90 at one point, which I mean, it's above average, but I mean, people will build a portfolio of 90 moments like pretty quickly. Some out of packs, most on the secondary market, but I churned those out, 8K's worth in a month and a half, and then I just started having that realization. It's like, I don't want to keep grinding this because I'm not a greedy person per se. I don't think about money a whole lot just because I don't really come from money. And like this was my first real experience of like some real serious like cash, some quiche. And I didn't like what I was becoming. Like I was losing sleep. I was like watching like dollar signs. Like I don't think affected my teaching or anything. But like I definitely like wasn't putting added like effort into being creative with like my lesson plans, which like I'm constantly doing, which like is what I get joy out of. And so I was just like, yeah, it's time to go. Like I hit a account valuation about a week and a half ago of $56,000, and I was like, it's time to do it. Luckily, I sold at the top of Mount Everest. Like I could buy back everything that I sold twice over. Maybe that might be an exaggeration, but I could definitely get everything back for less than what I sold it
But you
for.
said the hockey stick came back down after you sold, but now it's like back up again.
No, so it went 7 million in sales, record.
Yep.
Kind of a 2 to 3 week little bottom out, and then up to, I think it was, I want to get the number right, 65 million. And I sold at the 65 million point. And right now, money isn't leaving Top Shot, okay? It's just being focused into the actually valuable stuff. So it's being focused out of Series 2 into Series 1 and the more rare cards because people are like flipping and leveling up from common to rare. They're flipping and leveling up from Series 2 to Series 1. And one big thing is like, it's going to, like, if you put money in Top Shot So anyone listening to this, if you want to put money in Top Shot, do not expect to get your money out for at least 6 to 8 weeks.
Why is that?
Because they have to verify your identity, which mine is, and they have to look at your transaction history manually to confirm you're not like money laundering. Okay? And that's what they're telling. But they also, I mean, this thing would have crashed weeks ago if people could just pull out whenever they wanted to.
So they're checking for money laundering into their products. How do they even check for that?
I guess, I mean, I don't know how they check for it, but they're checking for it.
That's very, very interesting. Because I may have mentioned this earlier quickly, but one of the major question marks around the fine art, collectibles, whatever market around the world always has been is the money laundering that happens through it, and the basically cheating on your taxes. And there's all kinds of complicated ways that can happen. We don't need to get into it, but those things happen. So one of the questions around NFTs, and it's obviously we're right in the wheelhouse here with NBA Top Shot, is that being able to shield your assets on this from those types of, whether it be the IRS or whatever, it's harder because you're doing it through centralized exchanges that have an immutable ledger that knows who owns what.
Exactly.
It's like it's not even harder. It's borderline impossible.
Yeah.
So if, and this is the big question, if the value of the fine art market is largely, as it turns out, defined by just trying to cheat on your taxes or trying to cheat on your earnings or whatever, this market could be in trouble. I don't think that's the case, though, because like I look at the Mona Lisa, there's some art I look at where someone paid $1 million for it sometimes, and I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? But I look at like the Mona Lisa, I look at name any famous art piece, that's worth something. It's like it's a human thing that was created. So I see that still carrying over. But you could see through some of the bullshit that will be defined over time in the NFTs market, whether it be NBA Top Shot, whatever the bullshit is that the market defines, become worth nothing because people realize, well, there was no utility here anyway because I can't even hide from shit, and that's the only reason I wanted to get into it.
Yeah, I don't see that because like it's actually like I'm getting too far from the mic here.
Attaboy.
It can't. It's okay. So think about like one of the first reasons people were bearish on Bitcoin. Another thing I like to say: paper hands, diamond hands, bullish, bearish. I'm getting into that again. I get it. Bearish versus bullish, I love it. So one of the reasons people were bearish on Bitcoin early on is like it's only the drug dealer's currency. Turns out because every single transaction is traceable, it's the worst thing to buy and sell drugs with because you can trace it back to people.
I actually don't want to comment on that because it's yes, but that's getting above my pay grade on some things. But yes, and the theory you're presenting as far as how it could affect this type of marketplace now that it's iterated to is not necessarily wrong.
So essentially, like let's walk it back a little bit. With it being so transparent, the fact that they must have some way of tracking the transaction history in a way like that they can flag certain accounts for potentially money laundering. That is something that you couldn't do in a cash market. At least in and again, I'm talking above my pay grade here by far, but I think that adds legitimacy to it because like if the assets you're trading are transparent, they have there's a higher likelihood that the market is more legitimate. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what I'm saying is the money going into Top Shot is money going into, okay, I value this because of the scarcity. I value this because it's crypto. I value this because it's an NFT. I value this because it's NBA. You have so many layers of legitimate value. And yes, there are bots. Yes, there are people trying to flip. Yes, there are probably people who are laundering money. But they have made a lot of moves as a company to tramp that down as much as they can. So the user base, like the 205,000 people that were in line today for a pack, I think about 200,000 of them are legitimately believers in this that will probably keep their at least something in Top Shot beyond this season.
Can't say you're right or wrong. I mean, you may very well be right. It's anytime there is something so new there's all kinds of psychology that gets injected in, and you're going to start finding depending on which side of the coin you're on, you're going to find every reason why it works or every reason why it doesn't. A lot of times the answer ends up falling somewhere in the middle. So you trim out the fat of things that are bullshit, like I was referring to a few minutes ago, and you get to the things that are not. But I think the timing of NBA Top Shot is very interesting. And we keep on talking about the diamond hands and paper hands and everything.
I love it.
We did see, and I know you at least track this even though you're not in the markets, we did see on January 28th the nuclear bomb go off where GameStop had been running, where it was the people of Reddit against the Illuminati, the forbidden community of the hedge funds in Wall Street trying to short the stock.
The funny thing is like, I was like really in the weeds of Top Shot, and like that not once appealed to me at all.
So you were already in. But
yeah.
this is what's interesting. The price action on Top Shot started going nuts, like hockey stick nuts, as you said in the beginning of February. Right?
Well, the price action on Top Shot really didn't take off until mid-February.
Okay, even better. January 28th was when the fiasco happened where Robinhood suddenly didn't allow people to buy didn't allow people to buy GameStop and a few of the other meme stocks. And then all the backlash happened there. And so that was a Thursday. And we saw, beginning on Monday, the price of GME start to fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Now, ironically, as we talk right now, it has actually started an uptrend again, but who the fuck knows? It's not up where it was. It's like in the 100, 110 handle, something like that. But that movement was people versus institution. And it was also a very topish movement.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when you see retail investors coming into the marketplace, everyday people, right? Like people who aren't involved in markets, could even be like brilliant people who are worth a lot of money but never do shit. And now suddenly they're throwing money like they're an expert at something. That's usually the time to sell. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So there were guys, there's two guys I can think of who are two of the smartest human beings I have ever met in my life. Brilliant. Who were so caught up in this and didn't give a fuck about GameStop. They were so caught up in the politics of it's us versus them, whatever, yada, yada. And I tried to talk them off a ledge of get the fuck out of it. I know how this ends. The game's already been rigged. It's not going to end well for you. Get the fuck out. And they didn't. And, we saw what happened. It's interesting to me that Top Shot's action, and again, plenty of people who weren't NBA fans coming in, therefore maybe don't value the things happening in those moments as much. Top Shot's price action that exploded happened in February, largely, after this occurred.
Yeah.
Because people were leaving the stock market pissed off. They were deleting their Robinhood accounts, although Robinhood still kept a lot of accounts. Let's be clear on that. There's a lot of people say they're going to delete it, then they don't. But they weren't. They were pissed at it. They didn't like the system. They took their ball and they went home. But they're still at home. They're still in lockdown. They're still in Corona. They still need something to do. They still need some action. So they run around and they go, "Holy shit! NBA Top Shot. That's the next thing to go."
I don't think that it's an A goes to B type of thing, because I think like it's hard to get into Top Shot. Like the barrier for entry now is hard to get into Top Shot. The time where like that type of person would have been able to get in pretty easily was while the GameStop. So they overlapped where like basically I had a choice. I guess I decided subconsciously that I wanted to fuck some shit up. I wanted to try my hand at this greed thing, at this markets thing, right?
Greed.
So
for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Is good.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, GameStop, I just didn't see any fundamental value there. Okay, I'm using another market term.
Yeah, you were for a guy who's not in the markets.
Yeah,
look at me. A lot of times.
I didn't see it there, right? I'm actually I'm like very much into gaming, and GameStop fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Like I can see they had a new CEO. The actual original like reason why they wanted to kind of like fuck up the short was new CEO and the new consoles coming out, right? I get that, but otherwise, like unless GameStop does something digital, like they're done. You know
not according to deep fucking value. If you listen to him, he thinks they're going digital.
Okay, well that'd be great for them, and I think that's why you're seeing another surge, is because there is a little bit of underlying. It's not a bad bet. like if you look at it that way. Eventually,
if you look at it that way.
Yeah. But what I saw when that was happening, because I'm such a market expert, was that I was like, GameStop, it was like a carnival game. So not that like I had this like very like defined choice between the two. It's just like I kind of ignored that. And I was like, oh, this looks cool. And like I said, I was like, I didn't see this as a get rich quick scheme. I was like, people are going to fucking love this. You know what I mean? Like, and people do. And I don't think it's very related to Top Shot at all. It has that element where, like, if you want to go in there and fuck some shit up, flip, like, find an edge and make some money, you can do it, which is part of the value of it in itself, is that you can play that stock market game if you want to. But it has so many other layers of value beneath that or around that.
Because they own something.
Because they own something, because it's the NBA, because the NBA markets their players, because an actual moment in NBA history is pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean? Whereas like GameStop's a shitty company.
Yeah. You don't hold it in your hands.
Yeah, so I kept
not that you hold this in your hands, but you see something.
I kept asking myself, how will this fail? How will this fail? How will this fail? And I kept saying like, they actually put out something like, we got a lot of arrows in our quiver. And I was like, okay, they haven't marketed. They actually cut marketing. So like, I want to invest in a company that has such high demand, they have to cut it off. So that's why I was so bullish. And then like I got really lucky, and I think that when I sold, honestly, will probably be the peak. I think everybody thinks that, but I do think that I hit this rare little.
So you do think it peaked, and when you're saying peaked, I haven't pulled up anything yet. But when you say it peaked, for now or long term?
So $65 million in sales in one day. I think that is a peak that will be very hard to replicate because a lot of different things happened at the same time. You had all the big players. You had Gary Vee, Mark Cuban, Logan Paul, Barstool. They were all talking about it at the same time. Plus, people have their stimmies. You know what I mean?
You're looking at the daily sale, though. I'm talking about the value of the assets. Yeah, the daily sale, because they happen, right? They keep on putting these drops out.
Yeah.
They're going to keep doing that. I agree. Maybe the volume of initial adoption, like that was the moment.
I dumped
right?
80 moments in less than an hour. I don't think that type of liquidity is ever going to happen again. And if I think it could, because like I said, the NBA just needs to run a commercial during the playoffs.
How quick? That's a good question, though. How quickly did those sales go through? Like individually, you said less than an hour to do 80. So like, did you have some that were sitting there for 10 minutes and others went off in a second?
Like, you ever see like piranhas in a tank?
So it's like the stock market.
Yeah, it was like it was like that. Now, if I have the moments I have, like the reason I didn't sell them is because they sat overnight. So I was like, people aren't onto these, and I think they're just as valuable as the stuff I sold instantly. So I'm gonna wait until there's another spike and print some more money. But like that to me was like that's a very unique, like, because time is money, of course. Like in the cardboard market, and this is where my friend Alex, who put some money in with me, he like hit that wave like really well and like made some good money in that. But he had to put way more money in, and just the pure time it takes to get these transactions, the eBay fees and everything is just like, he's like, this is just such a better version of what I did, and it took me way longer to do it than it's taking us. So like when I was like, dude, it's time to sell, he's like, let's do it. Like I'm interested to see how fast it is. And I told him I was gonna dump almost everything at like 11 p.m.
Now, did you set prices on this, or did you just hit enter and say take market?
I looked at my account value, which is based on the lowest ask. I looked at the lowest ask for a moment, and I went $1 under, and it just went. I think there were bots on the site that were just buying up everything.
Sure.
But I also think a lot of people, like real people, bought my shit. And I texted him an hour later. I said 80 of them are gone. He said, what? He's like, that's crazy. So like that's one of the reasons why this is just a much better version of something that's worked really well already, which is the cardboard market.
And the cardboard market was heating up for a while. I mean, that was heating up for, in my estimation, roughly what it felt like to me, about 2 years or so. And Gary Vee was hard on that, and there were some people who, and then you saw some of the athletes that actually get into it, and it's been huge during Corona. I had Luke Servino in here, who is Kendrick Perkins' personal manager and business partner in a card partnership. So they've been buying cards for a long time, long before Corona, the whole nine. And it's interesting that people have put such a tangible value on those physical objects again now, and they've created...
It's literally cardboard.
It's literally cardboard, right? But it's the Gem Mint 10 or, it's the scarcity thing you talked about earlier. This is just an iteration of it that's more transparent, more easier, can move faster because it's all digital. Boom. Second, it's completely authenticated already, whereas like with the cardboard market... even Kendrick and Luke, they got to send out all their stuff to PSA.
Which is subjective.
Which is totally subjective.
You can say whatever the fuck you want about it. It's subjective.
It's and I shouldn't say totally subjective. There is some objectivity to it.
Yeah, they
in the
definitely
sense
have some operational definitions of
But it's like you see what PSA does. It's unbelievable, like how fast they turn this stuff around and how they move it. But they're doing it in a human world, in a physical world where they gotta, look at it and stuff. So it makes sense that you're gonna have an iteration now where that's just done.
Yeah, they were trying actually. Top Shot kind of killed this. I think it's Starstock.
Starstock, correct?
Is trying to centralize the cardboard market to make it more efficient, make it faster, kind of put your sell, your PSA, grading, everything all in one spot.
Yep.
Top Shot is doing that way better than that could ever dream.
But okay, so here's another question. Top Shot's creating moments. They're creating videos. Creating, it's the word is not interactive.
So I think another interesting thing is Top Shot's not creating the moments. The NBA players are creating the moments.
Right. But they're taking it and packaging it. They're creating the products that are the moments. But yes, good point. Whereas Starstock is relying on the physical picture. It is two different ideas. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I
think both will exist.
Okay.
In concert with one another. I just think that for me, I feel like I missed out on the cardboard market. Not that I was ever on it. Never would be on it. I was hoping that I'd have a hollow Charizard sitting in my closet back home. Not the case, but let alone one that would be not have the ear chewed off of it or whatever, the corner. but yeah, I think both. I don't think the cardboard market's going anywhere. I don't think the cardboard market's going anywhere, and I don't think Top Shot's going anywhere. Because they are two different things to a certain degree. But
this whole thing is. This is the kind of stuff I love to study with human behavior a lot, because I cut my teeth working in the markets, and you see the worst of people, and sometimes you see the best of people, but you see the worst of people in markets in both directions, depending on where their bets lie. And there's a guy who I used to get his newsletter called the Daily Dirt Nap. This guy, Jared Dillian, who's brilliant, and he was one of the greatest traders at Lehman Brothers, when Lehman Brothers was a firm and the traders had nothing to do with what happened as to why Lehman Brothers failed. But after Lehman Brothers crash, he left Wall Street as far as working at the institutions, wrote this newsletter he had already been writing while on Wall Street, and is an investor and a very, very brilliant guy, and is known as he is a genius behavioral finance reader or whatever. So he studies what people are doing in the macro to determine what the micro is, which in his case is what is the price of the stock market and the value.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite theories that he had, and he had many, but one of my favorite ones, New York City guy. So he had this theory called the seafood tower theory, which is when you start walking into restaurants in New York City and you see seafood towers all over tables, sell your fucking wife and kids. Sell everything. Because seafood towers are, if people aren't familiar with them, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's this 4-layer tower of seafood with different fish and crab and all that bullshit, on each level. And you pay hundreds of dollars, in some places thousands of dollars for it. And yes, it's a lot of seafood, but if you just went and bought that same seafood somewhere and took it home and cooked it, it might cost $100.
Yeah.
People buy it for the view and the allure,
it's a sign of inflation.
Correct. Yeah. Well, it's a sign of wealth, right? Okay. It's a sign of we're having fun. It's a tower. All the bitches put it on Instagram and stuff now. All that stuff. So, bitches as a light term there, not a direct term. You got to make sure that people understand the context there, but you get the point. Like the basic bitch kind of thing. So. He said whenever he would see the seafood towers, that's when he knew people were complacent. They were gluttonous. They get out.
Yeah.
One of the basic theories that he didn't invent, it's just been around, is the taxi driver theory. which says the same thing, which is when you get into a taxi, and now people could say an Uber, and the Uber driver is suddenly giving you stock picks, sell everything.
Yeah.
Because that means the retail money's gotten to the marketplace.
Some people may look at me as a taxi driver.
Sure. But this is my point. I never, ever want to say the words new normal. Those are the words you say before you lose everything and before you're very, very wrong. So I'm not going to say that.
Well, you just said it.
No.
You said it.
I said it to point out the term. Touche. What we do need to look at, though, here is why have we not seen major league economic sell-offs? And a lot of people are going to say right away, the Fed's been pumping in money and creating a fake economy and the dollar's not worth anything. Fine. Assume that that's not completely true, though. We've seen the stock market go like this. We've seen all these other hot markets while people are sitting at home bored, just fucking hockey stick and go through the roof. And we haven't seen the sell-offs because I got to be honest with you. Back last April and May especially, when after Corona started and all the retail bros, this pre-Gamestop, were going to Robinhood and suddenly becoming day traders with Davey Day Trader, which, that was the funniest shit I've ever seen. Dave Portnoy's hilarious. When they were all doing that, I looked at that and I said, taxi driver. I said, oh my God, is this going to crash? And it didn't at all. Because people needed action. It was a different world. We had never had people all at home doing something. So Jared Dillian has been flashing the alarm bells on all markets since the beginning of January. And he's putting his actions behind it too. He liquidated his entire retirement account. And he's been tweeting about it, whatever. And it's scary to me because his track record is excellent. And I try to look forward and not backwards to judge who's going to be right and wrong. But there's the difference here that I see that we need to talk about is that you're seeing it in more individual places than anything. And so specifically, when you saw the explosion in GameStop, where was the explosion? It was in GameStop. It was in AMC and a few other stocks. Was that necessarily in Apple? No, Apple had been going up for a long time. Those weren't the people buying Apple. But yet there's people like Jared who want to say, well, that's the bubble. Everyone's running the stock market, sell everything, and allow that mentality to affect what's happening with Apple or something. Then when you look at something like NBA Top Shot, those same people, the Jareds of the world, he hasn't commented on that, I don't think, but as an example, they see things like that and they see irrational exuberance. They see people like you who aren't NBA fans running to the markets and openly saying, look, not an NBA fan, and I was looking to make money, diamond hands, whatever, and they go, oh my God, taxi drivers going in the market. So do you see some of this stuff, like you keep on talking about it's here to stay. Do you see some things right now that even as a not markets guy, you're saying to yourself, there are definitely some actions driving prices in some of these new markets, whether it be NBA Top Shots, NFTs as a whole, even parts of the stock market where it's like, there has to be some kind of ending here where things get reset and it's not good.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, obviously.
A lot, yeah.
If you don't think that these kind of like, I don't know what to call them, these GameStop stocks, Top Shot, anything that doesn't have like big time fundamental value like Apple, they're going to take a hit once people can take that money that they have and put it into real life experiences. People are funneling money into digital things, whether it's a stock, whether it's a digital moment, because there's no real life thing to buy right now. I mean, you can eat outside, but you can't really go on vacation. I mean, all that stuff is starting to happen. And also, not only that, it's winter, right?
Yeah.
So I have a theory. This is probably something that you can answer easily. The stock market probably does better in the winter.
You know what? I actually don't have an answer to that.
That'd be an interesting thing to look at. I think
never looked at that.
Yeah, you could probably like.
I know months. I know like September and October can be historically bad months, you know. But I'm not really sure on that. We'll check that after.
But so people are going to start going outside. People are going to start buying real life things. It's going to take a hit, but it's not going to like crash our economy, I don't think. But I think at the same time, like these people are going to get out, cash out, like who's left? You know what I mean? Whoever's left is going to lose in these things. But I think like what rebounds will actually have long-term value. I think Top Shot is one of those things. Yeah, I don't know. That that's interesting to me. But my window, because I set I was a very responsible investor. I set some goals. I had a timeline in mind.
Some people would say that's not diamond hands, Nick.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. I actually don't believe in that. I think it's pretty fucking stupid, honestly. I think a lot of people lost a lot of money.
How dare you?
Because they got caught up in a meme. I like saying it because it's funny. But my goal was like, I'm gonna ride this out for the rest of the season because I think that's a pretty good timeline. I want to see what happens to this when NBA starts advertising it. I thought that the big hockey stick that I saw was going to come. I didn't think it was going to happen in February. I thought it was going to happen like during the playoffs because I could just see all these awesome, but like all those people that I thought were going to talk about it during the playoffs started talking about it like a week ago. So because like that happened, I like kind of did the math, not the math, but I did my gut told me, it was a gut feeling that it was time to sell. And I'm still really glad I did. I'm sure there will be at least one surge. I'm like, maybe I should have held a couple of those, but I still have 5. Yeah, man, I think it's gonna rebound. I think everything's gonna like the summer. You're not gonna see people like to the extent that they are now buying and selling stocks,
especially if
day trading.
Knock on wood, reopen the fuck out of this country. You know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a party. People are going to be out doing things, which makes it's not just Top Shot. Like we're picking on Top Shot with that example. It's everything. You know, people are going to be out buying tangible things again. They're not going to be sitting there like, oh, let's check my accounts like 50 million times a day.
Yeah.
Life starts to happen.
But the thing is like for every, let's say out of how many accounts there's over 200,000 accounts now. When I got in, there were 12,000. So there's over 200,000 accounts now. Let's say at least 80% of those are legitimate, not duplicate accounts. I think they can track that and police that pretty well. The NBA market is way bigger than 200,000.
Absolutely.
Way big. It's global. And so let's say half of that 200,000 are people like me who aren't really in it for the actual like collectible, like I like these moments for these moments. Let's say more than half that, like they're going to be able to replace the people that leave in the summer with just as many, if not like way more than that. And yeah.
Do you know anything about restrictions? And I'm thinking of one country in China. And the reason I ask that is because China restricts all of our main social platforms there. They restrict Bitcoin. They don't let that shit happen. And the Chinese marketplace is the largest global marketplace for the NBA in particularly. Have you heard anything around what they're allowing and what they're not? I don't know anything about that.
I mean, if China allows the NBA, why wouldn't they allow things licensed by the NBA?
They allow the NBA because the NBA is content and they make money off of it. Where they start to allow free markets for their citizens to profit is where they start to get real sketchy.
I know that I got a Tyrese Halliburton 888, and I was like, I know 8 is a lucky number in like the Asian culture. I was like pretty pumped about it. I ended up selling it and like doing other stuff with that money, but I mean, I don't know. Like I know nothing about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard a peep on that. But like how it relates globally.
The NBA market within the United States is much larger than 200,000.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So that's enough for me. And that, like I said, I'm gonna play around with this. Again, I might try to find a quick little edge here and maybe, but I mean, I have a BMW sitting in my Dapper wallet. Like that's good enough for me.
Oh yeah. Well, and this is the other question that has to get asked, though, because I agree with you, and I've been an NBA fan my entire life, and it's a huge game. And the marketability of the players, especially relative to the NFL, it's apples and oranges. In the NFL, they're covered by a face mask. And there's also 22 of them on the field at a time.
Yeah.
And 53 on a roster. Against,
so there's a scarcity game there.
Correct. Whereas in the NBA, you can see their faces, cameras are up close, there's only 10 on the court at a time, and there's 12 on each roster. So the scarcity that you have with that creates more marketability. You know, if you're a Tom Brady, like a quarterback, like the face and symbol of the team, yes, you can make a fuck ton of money. But also globally, basketball is a bigger game than football is globally. It's largely an American sport. So, like football is. So I get it with how you can actually get this off the court and stuff. But the question that does have to be brought up here is that even when people had all this time on their hands during Corona and all this, when the NBA season came back, and I know their numbers are better this season so far. They're still not where they were, though.
People did not love the bubble.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the craziest thing to me is that Game 6 of the NBA Finals, with the best player of this generation playing in the game, had like 300,000 viewers.
I didn't know that.
While fucking CNN and Fox had 10 million that night.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that while that's happening, forget Top Shot. This is before that, largely. The card market, the cardboard market of these players, even though no one's fucking watching or cares, is blowing up.
Yeah.
So who's in that? Is it just so many people are bored? And then what is the long-term viability of sports here? And I think we all love sports. I think it's going to be fine. I just like to bring up the question because when people had nothing but time, they were still...
Yeah, I guess...
They didn't watch it.
The argument you're making is that for me to assume that NBA fans will also be into this might be misplaced in that I can't assume that the NBA fan will also be into NBA collectibles.
I don't even think that's that misplaced, though. I would think, are all of them going to be into it? Absolutely not. There's no such thing as all in any marketplace, right? But do I think a nice percentage, whatever that is, let's call it enough, are going to be into it?
But the argument you're making almost makes me be more bullish on this because even though the NBA was doing bad, the collectible market around the NBA was doing well. I think you're always going to have people trying to take advantage of the market. So the only thing that happens is you get more liquidity as the NBA popularity increases back to its level that it was before. And you'll still have those people trying to, because essentially like you're basically passing off value down to the lower levels or taking value from the lower levels. If there's more people playing around at the lower levels, the casual NBA fan buying and selling the $50 moments, whatever they are, that's good for the overall market of it. Here's where I'm probably talking out of my ass, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I think it does. I think the way to look at this marketplace, and again, not just Top Shot, but look at the current round of NFTs that are being created, whether it be Genies dropping the Mehmet Ozul, the soccer player, I think that's how you say his name, that sold... I don't know what the total number was, but maybe there were 100 of them. Or
I have an
1,000.
uncle Mehmet, by the way.
Oh, well, there you go.
Is Ozul? Is he Turkish?
Yeah, Turkish.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gurol is Turkish. Fun fact for that.
Really? I thought you were Mexican.
My grandma's Mexican. My grandpa's Turkish.
Got it.
Dundar Gurol.
What a
Turkish.
combo.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable combo. But anyway, like you see stuff like that get sold. You see stuff like Logan Paul selling a digital version of himself on a digital card.
Genies, by the way, is going to be massive.
Genies is the... Yeah, I'm not really sure what...
That's going to be Fortnite skins.
I'm trying to think.
Because I also wanted to circle back to Fortnite skins. Fortnite skins accidentally made NFTs. It's just not backed by the blockchain.
I agree with that. I want to be careful what I say. I'm thinking of a couple guys I know and some stuff they have around that. So I don't want to get into that, but let's just say
I don't know anything about Genies. I just see it. I see what it is.
Let's say I agree. Yeah.
It's going to be big.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it already is. And
that's Dapper Labs.
Yeah, exactly. And but that offshoot of what they do, they were doing before we saw like Mehmet Ozul and all that, they were doing, let's call it, first generation type stuff. They were dripping out little things that they weren't even NFTs, just to kind of give people a taste of what their capabilities were. And now they're actually dripping out NFTs and they're creating these avatars. The NFTs, my point is, the NFTs that we are seeing right now are at base level. So I think a lot about my friend Anthony was on this podcast and his company Soar. They build holograms. They build 3D representations, both VR and AR. They have the #1 compression algorithm there is, right?
Yeah.
There's no one in the world.
Piper.
That's the running joke, but they are effectively Pied Piper, but it works, right? And Pied Piper, for people who don't know, it's the company in the show Silicon Valley on HBO, which that was their company. That allows them to build these experiences. What do you think they can do with that, with NFTs? I don't even have to ask them, but the types of experiences that they can create to allow drops of things with his technology versus what's being put out there right now, even by Genies and other companies like that, it's absurd. I mean, I thought of one the other night and I'm like, imagine if you had Who's name like 3 music artists you love? Taylor Swift, that's one. We know that one.
Come on.
You're a big Taylor guy.
No.
You ruined the song "Feeling 22" for all of us.
I know. I've grown since then. I like Machine Gun Kelly's new album.
Okay, let's go with Machine Gun Kelly.
Uh-huh.
So Machine Gun Kelly, let's say that there's 2 songs he's never released before and then won't. And there's 2 songs that he's never performed before.
Yeah.
And then 6 other songs that he's performed, released, whatever, that people know. That's a 10-song set. Let's say Machine Gun Kelly performs a concert in his fucking bathroom. Mm-hmm. And someone like Anthony could go out there and make that a 3D experience and put that into an NFT. This is something, like, I got to ask him about it, but I don't think that's beyond the pale.
I mean,
that's something he's capable of doing.
The concert ticket is the NFT.
No. There's no one seeing it. He would capture that concert, have it in 3D, and then have that as maybe a 10-concert drop and put it on the marketplace where there is 10 of Machine Gun Kelly who you can stand up life-size right here in the middle of your party in a hologram form playing the concert, and you own one of 10. And by the way,
I can sell tickets.
Not even tickets. You own the asset. So if you have 100 people over for a party, Machine Gun Kelly's playing a concert no one else has heard right there.
Yeah, but if I wanted to charge those 100 people, I could.
Oh, fuck yeah. I guess you can. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you don't think on the open market there are enough Machine Gun Kelly fans out there who are going to be like, or just people who understand assets and are going, oh my God, I can own a visual, literal 3D representation of Machine Gun Kelly doing this thing he did that no one ever saw, and with these songs no one's ever heard? People are going to want that.
Yeah.
That's how, and that's just one layer of where NFTs can go to.
Yeah. I think that's big. I could see that being a big deal. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that. You're getting into like the little bit of metaverse, but this company is putting it in the real world. I can see where digital assets becoming being able to be a little bit more tangible in the real world. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. I guess I would need to understand the technology a little bit more, but just tossing up a hologram, like what digital technology would I need in my home to? Oh,
that's a whole separate question because that's part of the adoption process. That's why we don't have holograms in homes
I think that's
right
where
now.
You run into issues.
Well, it's like any other piece of technology. Mm-hmm. First of all, behind the scenes, they all have technology that exists right now that we don't have yet and we won't have for 5 to 10 years in some cases. Mm-hmm. Most cases, maybe it's like a 2-3 year turnaround. So think of it this way, and this is a bad example because this was not the case, but let's say Apple had the iPhone in 2001. They really didn't. They were actually building the tablet. They were building the iPad first, and then they realized, let's make the phone first while they were building that. So it's not really the case, but let's say they did, and they had the iPhone in 2001. To sell the necessary items, including the iPhone itself in 2001, would have cost, you're buying a car, for the same thing that 10 years later is $20 off, $20 sale on a street vendor because it's the 3 versions ago, right? Yeah. To get to that marketplace, they had to do it over time to where they could get the production costs down. Mm-hmm. That's all holograms are in right now. So the people who buy it, by the way, who are buying something like that example, like a Machine Gun Kelly thing, first of all, they're rich as fuck. So any equipment they need, they can get.
Yeah.
And secondly, the barrier to entry of that equipment will go down over time, so more people can get it. But the rare ones like that, the people that get that barrier to entry down and can now enter, they're still never going to be able to buy that anyway. It's a rarefied market. Mm-hmm. It's like the people who own art pieces. We talked about having the digital frames earlier, right? That's 2D. Now imagine instead of it, like we talk about the decor when people come in here and it's a part of the ambiance and you want to say, ooh, look what I own. Well, now imagine you have something 3D and the motherfucker's standing there with you. And in that case, rapping.
Yeah, it's just tough because I think like you could test that out by just having a moment, like a Machine Gun Kelly moment that you can put on your TV as a concert for a party of 100. That could work. If that doesn't work,
2D world,
if that doesn't work, it's going to be tough for the hologram to catch on because there's just so many more steps to make that work in your home. I think it's likelier that a concert venue buys it and makes a concert out of an NFT Machine Gun Kelly hologram.
Well, no doubt on that. And I also agree with you entirely. This is not what I just said is not necessarily, minus the very rarefied ones, like the Machine Gun Kelly could be a part of that example. That's going to take a while to get to where the everyman integrates it in their life. Same way that the iPhone couldn't happen overnight, right? Actually more so because there's more moving pieces involved. But in concept right now, in theory, because people are buying out, right? Like they're buying these moments. Maybe there's not a lot of digital frames right now, but they're betting that they're going to be. So they're buying 5 years out when that's going to be a thing.
See, I don't think people are buying them. I think having it on your phone is enough. It's enough for Gen Z. Having it
Why
on
do you
your
say that?
I don't think that the utility of NBA Top Shot is the moment can one day be on my wall in a cool digital frame. I think that it's the fact that it exists online, that's enough. That's enough to be able to show it in a social media platform. When I texted you that Giannis moment, one of the coolest things about these moments is that when I text it to you, it plays in iMessage.
Yep.
It looks cool in iMessage.
It does.
That's enough. That's
and
enough.
it's like Instagram. It's the same thing. People go to their Instagram page. How good does yours look? Now, that's an open access tool. Everyone has access to it. But we can agree that people who are influencers, who have a lot of money and professionally pay for things to be curated correctly and all that, they have extra features that the average person can't get access to. I agree with you. I think there is the same level here. The question then becomes, how much do people value what the look is there? Because to go back to the original article that he wrote, what was his name again? The blogger
Bales,
who wrote that?
Jonathan
Bales. To go back to that original article, it's a YouTube video with a frame and a stamp around it that says we're partners with the NBA. And I'll give them a little more credit. It's designed with very nice angles and whatever that aren't necessarily.
And scarcity.
Yes, there's some scarcity there to that. But it's still a video of a play you can go see in HD, 1080p, and if you got the right equipment, you can go see it in 4K. So is that enough? Is it going to follow that theory you're talking about where Gen Z is like, ooh, look at me, I have this one on my phone, where the other Gen Z kid's going to say, well, look at me, I have it on my phone too. It's on YouTube and maybe I don't own it, but fuck it, I can still watch it.
I think there's enough legitimacy to it already that it's only, so the value of the moments is only as valuable as the people willing to buy them. And I think, like, if I say, well, I paid this much for it, I paid this much for it, but I can sell it for this much. As long as that remains a thing, I'm gonna put my moment that I can sell for thousands of dollars up against your YouTube video you got for free. Like, it has value, just like anything else that has money, like art, like a trading card. Like, it's valuable because I know that someone will pay this amount for it. And that was kind of like my thesis, like early on when I was like buying. Like, I didn't really buy a lot of the rare stuff because, like, I kind of subconsciously was thinking about things the same way you were. Is like, when Barstool gets a hold of this is kind of like where I was going. Like, when the Barstool bros get a hold of this, they're going to have around $500 to $2,000 to burn in this marketplace. What is the best stuff that they can buy for $500 to $2,000? And I just bought all of it. I looked, and so I don't know anything about the NBA. Here's another thing I did. So I used Vegas odds. I used the Vegas odds for MVP, and I saw that LeBron was the favorite, and in second place was Joel Embiid, and in third place was Jokic. Obviously, LeBron was priced with that in mind. It was priced appropriately. Joel Embiid and Jokic were not priced appropriately based
outliers.
On the NBA on the NBA MVP odds. So I bought a lot of them. Because I was so early, I was able to buy like the top 10. I was able to buy the top 10 for like under $2,000.
So, like, what was the best Embiid play?
It was just his first play, because that's another thing, is like his first play is going to get a badge that says it was his first play on NBA Top Shot, it was an assist between his legs. You should look it up.
Oh, so not his first play of his career, just the first play they created.
So there's a couple different badges that will exist in late March, early April. That's a nice little tip for the listeners. If you can figure out what a player's first play on Top Shot is, it'll get a badge. If it's a play from their first rookie game, it'll get a badge. If it's their first play as an NBA player, their first rookie moment. So like LaMelo Ball has this shitty assist. It is like a lollipop assist to some random dude. He takes a full. It's barely an assist. I don't even know what an assist is in basketball. Like I don't fully understand it. I know it's a pass and then someone scores. This is barely that. It is going for over $3,000 because it's his first assist in the NBA. And so that's going to get a badge. So like if you can figure out those types of things, like that's where the edge is right now. That takes some work because it's not apparent. And also the price of that type of thing is already kind of baked in because people know it's coming. But if you want to take advantage if you want to take advantage of the users that are coming in the future, those are the types of angles you need to take right now.
Now, in the cardboard, like the physical card market, one of the things that moves prices like crazy is the actual games night to night. So if Curry goes off for 60 points tonight, all of the values of his cards, I don't have a percentage for you. It's different for every person based on the situation, but it goes up. You know, maybe it goes up 10% overnight, and then people can delta that sale. Whereas if he has 5 points on 1 of 13 shooting, it goes down.
Yeah.
Is Top Shot the same?
This is why Top Shot's better. There's not friction. Here's another market term. Is it a market term? I don't know. Friction.
I believe it is.
So there's way more friction in the cardboard market because Curry's not a good example because he's going to hold his value way more than, let's say Jaylen Brown. Right?
Okay.
Again, I don't know a whole lot about the NBA, but I know enough to know that Jaylen Brown is young, promising NBA player.
Very good player.
He has a 60-point game. His stuff will skyrocket. Okay? Because he's never had a 60-point game before. Has he?
No.
Okay. Not a lot of people have.
Not a lot, no.
So that you can take advantage of that in the cardboard market, even with the friction, because it's kind of a signal that his career is kind of going to another level, right? You can't take advantage of a 60-point game from Steph Curry because I'm not explaining this well. So let me rewind it a little bit.
All right, let's do it.
So Jaylen Brown has that 60-point game, okay? He's a little bit more of a volatile player because we're not quite sure what tier of NBA star he is. So he has that 60-point play. I have his cardboard card. I want to move it because his value skyrocketed. In the process of whatever, getting it graded, mailing it out, putting it on eBay, the auction process, he can have a 40-point game. Or not, sorry. He can have like a 0-point game, like completely flop in a marquee matchup. All the sales are pulled off.
Unless you already had all that done.
But that's the thing. Doing all that takes time.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you had it done before that 60-point game and you own it, you can go sell it on the open market.
Yeah, so my partner, he's had situations like that where like the sale it's stuck in like a little bit of like purgatory and it gets pulled. Like the buyer backs out.
Yes.
In there's a window of time for the buyer to back out in the cardboard market because of the friction of the cardboard market. There is not that friction in the Top Shot moment because I told you I sold 80 moments in under an hour.
Instantaneous, yeah.
Yeah. So if there was that friction, it would be really hard for me to sell at the peak of that sales kind of spike that I saw, which I think is like a reason why what you're saying is it's just a better version of that. Like I can play daily fantasy sports with my moments by buying and selling them a little bit because I can say, okay, let's say the Pelicans are going into this stretch. I think Zion is going to absolutely crush every single game because he matches up well with these three teams. I'm going to buy up a bunch of Zion, let these 3 games play out, and then sell because he just averaged over 40 points.
Got it.
So like that's where the edge is now. Okay? And if I was an NBA fan, I'd be all over that. That's where I would be. I would just be churning that out and just printing money. Because if you can find an edge, like if you're good at daily fantasy sports for NBA and you can see those stretches where a player is going to just crush it, you can buy before the stretch and sell after the stretch. Whereas like you can't really do that as well in the cardboard market. You can, but it's harder because of the friction. And that's if this comes to the NFL, like I will be all in on that.
So the instantaneous transactability is allowing for certain people to go in and quote unquote print money right now just because the market's growing. And I get that. Therefore, there's less, to go back to the friction term, it's just time. It's a standard of time, and then the bullshit that comes because that causes that time to happen.
The
which is all
the best
grading
sellers
and all
in the
that.
cardboard market have all their cards graded. They have a nice little pipeline to a
And they sell it right online right away.
Yeah.
Bang.
But
done.
even then, there's still a window there. Like my buddy, he's really good with all that, and he still has a window of time where the buyer can back out if something happens to that.
That's interesting. I know less about that. So yeah, so there could be a problem no matter what precautions you take against it. But it's not just it's not just the fans printing money here. It is Dapper Labs, and we keep on talking about that. So with Dapper Labs, you had mentioned they get like a 5% tax or a 5% rake or something like that. I forget what it was in the secondary market. So can you just explain how exactly that works?
Yeah, so Dapper Labs, when you buy something on Top Shot, as the buyer, I don't have an extra 5% taken from like my Dapper balance, which is what you buy stuff with. And Dapper balance is in USD. You can load it with crypto. You can load it with your credit card, which is another thing. Is like they're kind of onboarding people into the NFT space without needing crypto, which I think is kind of a newer thing. And that is one of the appeals of the Flow protocol, is that it's scalable to a degree that allows they're okay with people using credit card to get in because they can scale to that level. So when I buy a moment, I don't see any of that marketplace fee. But when I sell the moments, it's 5%, which
it's a big rake.
That's a big rake. I think it's smaller than eBay would if you were selling a card on eBay. I think it's either comparable or less than that. I think when you compare it to really anything, it's not that big. I'm trying to think of like what the rake would be. The rake in daily fantasy sports is probably right around 5%. The rake in
Depends
betting,
what you're comparing it to.
Yeah, I just think like there's a marketplace fee. It made sense to me. 5% seemed like a decent number. It kind of sucked when I'm selling like the real expensive stuff. So I sold a Luka Doncic assists that was part of a challenge, which the challenge is a whole game within the game. I sold that for like close to $7,000, and 5% of that I was like, dang, like that's a lot. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Still, I think I beat the rake by a substantial amount. So
Dapper is incentivized by volume and or price. So let's say the higher the prices are, the bigger the rake they get. So you'd think they'd want them up. But if they get prices so high that everyone just holds it and there's no sales happening, they don't really make money. So they need volume to happen. Whereas, let's say prices go through the floor and people are just buying and selling like crazy, and it's a whole different kind of marketplace, different actors, different everything, because the vibe is different. Well, they're making a rake every time. So maybe where it takes 100 trades to make what would have been one trade a week ago, well, if they have 200 trades happening for every one trade did, they're doing better in the lower vol market. It could kind of go either way depending on how many players there are in the marketplace participating.
They set themselves up pretty nicely with this. It's pretty good.
It's pretty amazing how fast.
Dapper Labs is really, really sharp.
And what was the original part of their company? They were like Crypto Kitties or something?
Crypto Kitties, yeah. So
and how did that work?
Crypto Kitties was basically, the Crypto Kitty was, I think it was a non-fungible token. Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
So it's basically you buy a cat. It's a virtual pet. You can. I think the biggest thing with that was cool. I never got in, but I have a buddy that was. You can get two cats and breed them and make another cat. That is, like, you breed crypto kitties, right? Which is essentially like, that sounds really really fucking weird.
Come on.
But it's the same thing as like combining. So like if I have 3 common cards, I can sell them, right, for $3,000 or whatever, and then use that $3,000 to buy a rarer card. So if you have 2 cheap crypto kitties and you put them together and you make a new one, I think the 2 cheaper ones go away and you just have a more expensive version of the 2 that has the characteristics of the 2.
But everything with non-fungible tokens is still individual. There's one of it. That's it. Like even with the moments in NBA Top Shot where they drop 250 at one moment, it's still number 1, number 2, number 3. So you own the individual thing. And like I joke, I was trying to explain to my mom how NFTs work and like what they are. And I'm like, just think of it this way. They're not fuckable tokens because you can't fuck with it. Like once you own that one, that's it. Like that's the thing. And you know, whether it be they start with the crypto kitties and create the iterations of it where you can kind of combine and move around. Yeah. There's still the underlying asset that you own, you know, no one else does. The question is, how does the rest of the marketplace who doesn't own that value it? That's pretty, I mean, at the end of the day, it really isn't different than any other market. It's just like anything else. It's the behavior and the actors and the products within the market are what determine how it works, and then comes back to supply and demand.
Yeah. I think like where this is going is it's all about like, will someone buy this for X amount of dollars? I think that the NBA markets its players in a way. Top Shot is kind of setting up the game in a way where a Steph Curry 3-pointer is always going to be worth a few $100 on this site. It's never going to go away. Right now, it's worth a few thousand, and I think it'll probably stay there, Series 1. But what will go away is right now, like, Sam Merrill. Do you know who Sam Merrill is?
Not a fucking
There's a hard-O basketball player who's, like, fist-pumping right now. Like, Sam, like, he's like a white point guard, I guess, who just has, like, pretty nice 3-point shot. But, I mean,
who does he play for?
He's a rookie. I don't know. I have no idea.
Sam, how do you spell his last name?
Merrill.
Like Merrill?
Yeah.
Sam Merrill. So what's the story with him?
So right now he's a Series 2 rookie, and 4,000 of his moments exist on the site. If you can find his moment, based on scarcity alone, the fact that he's a rookie, he's going to get this badge. Like, let me just guess, he's probably going for a few $100, probably $450.
But what the fuck is he worth? That's the question.
That's the thing.
That's
the shit that's where like that's that.
I have it up behind you. Yeah.
Yeah. How much?
Let's
see. I called 450. Oh, there's 12,000. So
I got it. Where do I click again? Top sale.
Do more. No.
Sales history. Top sale.
That's the top sale.
$33.
If you look for the lowest ask, it being out of 12,000 kind of throws off the little equation. But anyway, even $33 is too much for Sam Merrill.
Yeah, I don't know who the fuck this guy is.
Yeah, so that type of player, he's not going to hold value long term when people have money to like do other things. When people have money and can do other things with it, Sam Merrill is not gonna hold that value. But I think the stars will. So I think like that's kind of like where this is going.
And you own 90 though. At your peak, you said, I think,
I owed
right?
90, and I probably at least 40% of those were just randos that like.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
That I got in packs that I was like, oh, whatever, throw away. But they ended up being worth, because they were just Series 1, they were worth like $45. So and I had enough of them that like it turned into at least a couple grand.
At least half of them were stars, though.
Yeah, I had a very nice diversified. I had all the All Stars, I had all the MVPs, I had all the rookies. That's where I was sharp.
Do you have Kyrie Irving in there?
I had plenty of Kyrie Irving.
Do you still own Kyrie Irving?
In what sense? I own him on the internet because he said their world was flat.
Yeah, well, that's where I want to get to. But do you own his moments?
No, I sold all those ones. I made about $5,000 off.
So
of his
you
moments.
profited off Kyrie Irving. I don't know how I feel about this, Nick. Did you feel morally compromised by that?
I didn't think about it, man. I was just churning money.
You're just churning money.
But I mean,
people have no idea what we mean right now. So fill them in. So
if you look up Kyrie Irving flat Earth students, plenty of articles kind of pop up about. While I was in grad school, he said the Earth was flat on a podcast, and I had just happened to be teaching plate tectonics. Which, if you know anything about plate tectonics, it is based on the fact that the Earth is round, largely. So I show a picture of this like round globe, and this is the day after he went on another player's podcast and was talking about how the world was flat and had a lot of conviction. And it like people were laughing at him. It was in jest, but he was serious enough about it that like I couldn't teach plate tectonics the next day in class.
Because the kids all believed it.
Because like Kyrie Irving had a huge following at the time. He still does, obviously, but he was like one of the big names then. Like he's in the pantheon of NBA players. He's not at the top. Actually, is he the captain of the All-Star team?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know. See, this is where my NBA knowledge.
No,
anyway,
there's not even a captain of the All-Star team.
Okay, whatever.
But he's on it. Did he make it this year?
Yeah,
he might.
He was one of the starters. I know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I sold his moment.
I don't know
when that was named.
Classic.
So he said the Earth was flat. And all my students said it wasn't. And I just wrote my master's thesis on why it was so hard to teach after an NBA player said the world was flat.
And what year was this? Like 2017, 2018?
This was 2016.
All right, I have it up behind me. In a recent story on NPR, middle school teacher Nick Gurol said...
I was a student teacher, by the way, and I was the voice of all teachers for a brief 15 minutes in time. And I literally had never stepped foot inside of a classroom as a certified teacher. But anyway, they got a hold of me.
Nick Gurol said his students started buying into the flat earth theory after hearing Irvin's comments. Gurol says, and this is from the article, the original article, Gurol says his students got the idea of a flat planet from basketball star Kyrie Irving, who said as much on a podcast. Quote, and immediately I start to panic. How have I failed these kids so badly? They think the earth is flat just because a basketball player says it, Gurol says, as he tried reasoning with his students and showed them a video. Nothing worked, however. They think that I'm a part of this larger conspiracy of being a round earther. That's definitely hard for me because it feels like science isn't real to them.
Yeah. And this problem has not gone away. As I've gotten better at teaching, it's not as big of a problem for me specifically, but I mean...
Do you reference this article all the time with your students now?
I don't talk about it much. I mean, it was like a cool thing, but I mean, like I said, I wrote my master's thesis on it. And it's just essentially like the NBA brands its players way better than our country brands education. So when I'm put up against, as a student teacher, mind you, I don't have a lot of social capital with students as a student teacher. Like, it's very hard to be a student teacher because you're automatically the beta, sure. Right? Because the real teacher is the real teacher. And when I step in front of the classroom, it's like substitute teacher land, like time to play around.
What's up, bitch?
So some of that was going on, but like I kept after it, and like there was some real underlying issue there. So basically what I came up with was, this is some nerd shit. So my girlfriend is a cognitive behavioral therapist. And
that's interesting.
She put me on this thing called the elaboration likelihood model. And it's going to be, I'm going to try to explain it as best I can, but it's essentially like the science behind changing someone's mind. And essentially, so like you anchor your beliefs in something, and moving someone up this likelihood model is basically the way to do that is through education. And on the lower end of the spectrum of the likelihood model is the likelihood that you will elaborate on an idea. If you have only heard a podcast where an NBA player said something, that's low on the likelihood model. So theoretically, if I elaborate more on that idea, if I teach them more about the earth, if I teach them more about science, but also if I build a relationship with that student where they trust what I'm saying is true, they will move away from that idea towards objective truth, and I will be able to change their mind. The only way I'm able to do that is if objective truth is on my side. Okay, so in a flat Earth example, that's easy. Thankfully,
it's harder than it should be, though.
Yeah, it's harder than it should be, but again, there's a relationship piece, there's an education piece, and so I did my whole master's thesis on this elaboration likelihood model. I did like a little survey of all my kids and put them on different places, and then I tried to move them up. So what I did was I came up with this game called Spot the Fake News, because fake news was a big deal back then. The Trump was like spewing it, and it was just a big deal. So what I did was I listed 10 websites, and they had to get points, and the way they earned points was by telling me if the site was real or not. So one of them was like a NASA site about climate change, where had all the facts, and I had this checklist of like what is a reliable source, and it's like, is the author a scientist, or is the author an expert in the field that they're talking about? Is it a .org, .gov, .com, .edu? Like you should assign value to its reliability based on that. And then, so I had all these checklist things, and if you were good at the game, you were able to spot the real sites and weed out the other ones.
Sure.
A funny one is like the tree octopus. So there's like...
What's that?
treeoctopus.com is actually built to help teach reliable sources. It's this site that has all these red flags that it's not a reliable source, and it's about like this octopus that, like this species of octopus that lives in a tree. So you can go in the Amazon rainforest and find octopi hanging from the trees, and like
It's a symbol.
it's a teaching tool.
Yeah.
So like that was one on there, and so I had them do 10, and like middle schoolers are really fucking competitive. I mean, people are competitive, but middle schoolers are savage when it comes to competition. So you throw a homework pass as like their reward, and like it's all gloves are off. So they're like going at it, they're having a blast, and then like the last site, the same kids that were super competitive with this game, the last site was flatearth.org. So they had to reconcile the cognitive dissonance where they've been trolling me for a month that the earth is flat, but to win the game, they had to say that this site wasn't reliable.
That's fucking genius.
Yeah. So I changed a few of their minds that way.
Did some of them not change their mind?
The ones that lost.
Yeah.
So the ones that were already out of the game, like they're like, fuck you, Mr.
Fuck
Gurol.
you. Yeah, we're
still
not
don't-
going there. Wow.
Yeah.
That's what was that theory called again?
The elaboration likelihood model. That was a piece. I didn't explain it very well.
You explained it very well.
Okay.
You explained. No, seriously. I want to give you credit for that. That was really good, and that hit well with that point because it drives it home as far as like you having to recognize between incentive and what you've been saying. So you're reconciling what's true and what's not because you're forced to for your own gain. Now, anchoring is a very interesting point that we could elaborate on with that. And I always look at anchoring as a psychological response to repetition. Yeah, and I forget there's an official psychological term for this, but when the concept that when you say something enough, it becomes the truth to you, right? Or when you hear something enough, it becomes the truth to you and you don't question it.
Confirmation bias.
Yes, that's what it becomes, but there's another thing below that. You're 100% right. Confirmation bias is a huge part of it because you already believe something and now you want to hear it more. But there could be, like, as an example, someone could make a left turn and get in a car crash maybe, and it was just a fender bender or whatever, and be told, like, no, you made a right turn. And then for whatever reason, just be like, oh, I did? And then as they keep telling the story over and over again, oh, I made a right turn. Eventually, when they think of it in their memory, they believe it was a right turn, even though it wasn't. It's not like they're actively lying. They've just now been anchored to something. I always use a genius anchor example of what Trump did on the campaign trail with his very first speech back in like 2015, and then just repeated it. And it's this overly simpleton thing that took a complex subject matter and made it way simpler than it could ever be, but he convinced people because he just repeated it over and over again, and it had a visual and it was memorable. And all he did was he got up there and said, we're gonna build a wall and Mexico's gonna pay for it. And the more and more he said it, the more and more people believed it could happen, despite the fact that not only had we not built a wall before and had a quote unquote immigration problem, however you want to define that, we hadn't even really built fences. And Mexico's going to pay for it? Like, how's that going to happen? How are you going to tangibly going to be able to show on a balance sheet that they did, even if you got to cheat it with trade tariffs or whatever? So everyone started saying it and was like, oh shit, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Build the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then people who even didn't give a shit about illegal immigration suddenly did, right? And you had this entire movement form strictly because he anchored people over and over and over again. So much so that when remember like when the 4 previous Mexican presidents all came out within like a week and they're like, fuck that, this is not happening. Notice they didn't say you're not going to build a wall. This is back in like 2016 before he won. They didn't say you're not going to build a wall, Donald. They went from you're not even going to build a fucking fence, you're not even going to talk about that with us, to we're just not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
He successfully anchored so much, regardless of what the policy point was or the fact that he didn't follow through with it. He anchored so many people that even the presidents of Mexico who wanted to fight against this didn't realize that their cognitive anchoring dissonance, or however you say it psychologically, a lot of psychologists and people are saying I fucked that up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They are now coming in and not even realizing that they are now saying they gave up ground. They gave up ground. Same way that if someone's negotiating with someone and they started on 50 and then somehow they're still fighting like a dog at 10. And if they got to 15, they'd call it a win. They don't look at it like I lost 35. Well, it's more than 35%. I lost 35 off the 50 points right there. They look at it as, oh, I gained 5 if they actually win that.
Yeah,
you know?
that's like some art of the deal stuff. Yeah.
It is. Well, yeah, a little pun intended there. But with your kids, they're so impressionable.
Yeah.
And they start to get down these rabbit holes. And when you see these videos, Joe Rogan talks about this all the time. You listen to these videos, whether it be flat earth or some other crazy conspiracy, whether it's people who actually have decided to believe it or just total trolls who are like, this is hilarious and I'm going to get clicks, they sound really smart because they plan it. They speak with all this quote unquote evidence or whatever. And people don't pay attention to the fact that they're citing the treeoctopus.com. They just go, holy ball, fuck me, it's flat.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of accountability. Even though there's all this information out in the world, like, it's very hard. Like, people aren't being held accountable because people like to, it's an echo chamber. People like to confirm what they thought was true initially because it feels good to be right. And this is what gets us to the three doors example.
Oh, we were talking about this earlier. Go through that. This is from the movie 21.
I'm gonna test you on it.
Okay.
Most people that I okay. So let's pretend you're on a game show, right? And I'm the host. All right. 3 doors. One of the doors has a Lamborghini behind it. You can't see it. It's like a Price is Right game. The other 2 doors have nothing behind it. Okay. You get to pick door 1, 2, or 3. Okay. So choose a door.
1.
Okay. You chose door number 1. Okay. I'm not going to tell you if you got the right one. Okay. With the Lamborghini behind it. Okay. Rather, I'm going to take away a door that definitely doesn't have it. So door number 3, I open door number 3. Okay. Nothing behind door number 3. Now you're down to door number 1, door number 2. You have an option to switch your choice. Do you want to stay with door number 1 or do you want to switch to door number 2?
I switch.
You switch.
Yeah.
So you, regardless of where the Lamborghini is, you made the right choice. Okay. And here's why. You changed your mind, which most people in that situation do not change their mind. They stick to their guns because the door they chose first, even though it's random and it's shit luck, they think that they might have like a sixth sense. Like they might say like, maybe do you have a reason for choosing door number 1 other than just?
No, you just asked me a door. That was the first number.
Yeah.
That
So
came
some
to mind.
people, a lot of people like might say like, there's a reason I chose door number 1, right? But for whatever reason, whatever the reason is, like people like to stick with their first instinct, right? But when you chose out of those 3, right, there was a 33% chance that you were going to choose the right one. Okay. So with the information you had 3 doors and a 33% chance at winning the car. When I take a door away, I'm giving you information, right? You by switching, you valued that information, right? Because it went from a 33% chance that you were right to a 66% chance you were wrong. Okay, I'm not explaining that right, so let me rewind that.
Yeah,
okay?
rewind that part.
It's a initially it's a 33% chance that you are correct. There's a 66% chance that you are incorrect.
When I chose door number 1 and you hadn't told me that door number 3 wasn't it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I take a door away.
Yep.
All right.
Take away door 3.
What are the chances you're correct?
With door 1?
After I take the door away, what are the chances that you are correct with door number 1?
33%.
It's still 33%, right? What are the chances that door number 2 is correct?
66.
66%. It's not 50-50. So if it originally gave you just 2 door options, it'd be 50-50.
Why? I always have trouble with that though, because I know that's the truth because of. I don't even want to say because of. Like the way I concept it in my head, I don't think is correct. I know that to be the case, but why is it that now it's door 2 has 66 when you don't know whether door 1 is right or wrong?
Because initially we established that there's a 66% chance that you are wrong initially. Okay?
Yes.
So given the new information, right?
Oh, inverse flip.
Given the new information, you have a chance to put yourself in the 66% chance bucket. 95% of people don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this is a results over process issue, right? I opened door number 1, the Lamborghini's there, you switched. You're going to be like, fuck your theory, Nick. You know what I mean? Like, But if you play that out 1,000 times, 660 times you'll get a card.
There's no you cannot have hindsight bias. It's the same thing in poker. Like if you're playing Texas Hold'em and you know based on deductive reasoning, you know you have the best hand mathematically after the turn, which is the fourth card, and there's one card to come, and you know that there's one card in the deck that could beat you if the other person has the necessary cards to get that, if you're putting them on that hand. If they hit that, that is possible that it can happen. But if you played that out, 100 times, considering that minus the 2 cards in your hand and the 4 on the table, there's 46 other cards in the deck. There's a 1 out of 46% chance that they're not percent, but 1 out of 46 chance that they're going to hit that card. So you might get fucked on one, right? But it has to do with, are you consistent the next time you have a choice like that? Do you still consistently pick the 45 out of 46% chance?
Yeah.
Therefore, over time, you are more likely to gain.
Yeah.
Just like on a slot machine, you have X% chance to actually win, whether it's 20 or 15 or whatever. Yeah, you could play forever, but there are people who play forever and win the $1 million hand, but how much fucking money do they lose lifetime playing it and not winning anything?
Yeah. The point of that story is as you gain information, it's okay to change your mind. And in fact, it's actually plus EV. Like it is better to, as you gain more information, change your mind. We live in a society right now where I think it's like people don't change their mind. I'm a Democrat. Everything that Democrats do, I'm agreeing with because I'm a progressive. What they do, I believe in. I get new information that that the president did something that, like, given an objective, like you remove Democrat, Republican, I think should be bad. Like, I'm not changing my mind about the Democratic president because I'm a Democrat, right? I'm anchored in that, and that's confirmation bias, right? I think that, like, one of the big problems is as you get new information, you should be more open to changing your mind. And then on top of that, as a society, we should be okay with people changing their mind, and we're not, because we're wishy-washy. You flip-flop, right?
I love this topic.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just like that's this thing that human instinctually that we're just really bad at.
A lot of it's tribal now too, because there is such an access to information exchange and the no barrier to entry almost, to putting your opinions out there and allowing other people in public, whether it be people in your network or
I mean, look at what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
I'm a middle school science teacher talking about markets. Yep. Right?
No barrier to entry to it. All you had to do was, talk about Top Shot with me. And I'm like, well, I want to bring the Top Shot guy in here. Done. Right? And by the way, getting on my podcast, for starters here, to think of nothing, taking time out of your day, doing all that, the barrier to entry to this is significantly higher than you sitting at home on your toilet and sending a tweet. Yeah. It's not even close. So that's that micro that we see all the time. And it's kind of funny because I'm hypocritical about it too. And here's how I'll explain. I'll use a political example. One of the things, like, politically, I'm not a socialist, right? So I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders' policies. Never have been. That's not a guy I would vote for. But one of the things that I've always said as a enormous compliment to him is that I give him credit that if you look at the history of his career in politics, like even since he was on his honeymoon, and or whatever, when he was in his 20s and held political beliefs and there was some public information around that, he's been consistent. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God. And
he sticks to his guns.
I think I've said that on this podcast, that I appreciate that. And a part of me is like, yes. At the same time, we vilify people for changing their mind when new information comes in. We hold people to stances they had in 1987. Yeah. What the fuck kind of world was it in? I wasn't even alive in I was not even a thought in 1987. But we're holding people to that type of thing. This is the problem. It's subjective. It's a slippery slope. In some cases, where you see people repeatedly flip-flopping and repeatedly being an opportunist, and it's not just politics, it's in anything. Yeah. You kind of know, like, inherently in your head, like, that guy's a bullshit artist. Whereas when you see people on certain situations, as society changes or whatever changes, they change their opinion on something, or how business is done, or how this is done, or that is done. We then crush those people for changing those ideas that they previously had a different public idea of, when in reality we should consider the fact that maybe, not all of them, maybe they just got new information and they said, you know what? I used to think that, but now I think this.
Yeah. You need to be able to explain yourself well.
Yes.
And I think, like, I don't know if this is totally related, but I have on the list I sent you, pundits are pussies. Because...
What do you mean by that?
Like, so what I mean by pundits is like news anchors, doesn't matter, Fox, CNN, whoever it is, like their jobs essentially are to hold people accountable for the actions that they have. Like, hold our president accountable for sending troops into wherever, right? And I analyze the results of that decision over time, and they continually offer their opinion on it, right? So they're essentially holding people responsible for their actions, but where's the accountability for them? When they offer an opinion like, when the president did this and this happened, it's because of this, and I told you this was going to happen. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, for every one of those, like, we're really bad at predicting the future as human beings. There's probably 9 instances where the president made the right decision and they said it was going to go terrible, and, like, that accountability is not there, right? Like, I just think, like, I don't know, like, how this is totally related, but you know do you see what I'm getting at there?
100%.
Yeah.
I look at, the Trump presidency is such a case study and will be for forever, for my lifetime, as far as looking at many concepts, but a concept like this. And to me, there were, every president has some sort of net positive. Trump had some net positives, whether you want to talk about bringing certain jobs back and stuff, which I don't want to get into the weeds, but some of the ways he did that, I appreciate the intentions. I don't think the long-term model was personally smart, but that's my opinion. I could be wrong, right? Either way, there were some good things that happened through all the bullshit and all the, crazy drama. I thought, at least in my opinion, and I know the world is not a utopia, so this would just never happen because humans are biased and dumb when they get biased. If they had just fucking reported on him, put no opinion into it, just reported, he falls flat on his face. He walks into it himself. How many times did he... I mean, look at how he ended. He gets himself in trouble by fucking talking too much. Yeah. That's all he had to do. But instead, they injected all these opinions in it. They effectively have gotten...
On both sides.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 100%. But when you look at the national media that has the most attention and has the most backing of the quote-unquote social platforms, yes, it is the left side.
Yeah.
So if you see the skew of the opinions, it goes that way, which... If it didn't threaten things like free speech, I don't know how much I'd care. It does, though, like with actions we've seen, which is another issue. I don't want to get into that right now. I want to make the overall point, which is instead they injected the opinions into everything and created this, it's us against him. Yeah. And they pushed a lot of people right the fuck into his arms. They put, and I'll speak for myself too. I've talked about this on the podcast, but I look at myself politically. I didn't vote for either candidate in this past election here, and that was not. It was a decision I was willing to change my mind on, but that was one that I was comfortable with by 2019 when I saw like how this was going. Right before that, though, I was a Trump guy and an Obama guy. How the fuck is that possible? Well, I'll tell you how it's possible with Obama. It's pretty simple. Like, I'm in college, I'm fairly liberal, whatever, and Obama's like a cool guy. Country actually was coming out of the crisis at least seemingly okay. I was like, all right, yeah, it's cool, whatever. By the time I got to Trump, when he started talking about the bias that we saw and how there were these narratives put out there and they were telling you what to do, he wasn't wrong about that. Yeah. And so for me, when I go and do my own, like, well, what really drove me to it? That's one of the main things that did. Yeah. And I can think at the same time that then, okay, yeah, that's not a guy that politically I get behind now or have in a while. But also, yeah, he was right about that one thing. And now we're seeing it play out on this grand stage where we have this skew. And so if these reporters, and now you've rung bells, I don't know that you can unring, if they would just step the fuck back and do their job, which is to report without opinions the way you want them to do it and I want them to do it, we would get to the truth easier and we would see who's good and who's bad, regardless of political party or political affiliation.
I'm not saying that like news outlets can't have opinions. I think that's valuable, especially from people that are studying this stuff and researching this stuff. I think that's good because like the everyday person doesn't have time to research every single political move. They need it to be condensed and delivered to them in a way that's part of the responsibility of media. I don't think it's been at the actual utility of media. probably for quite some time, especially in the last few years. And all that needs to be paired with that opinion is some type of accountability. And that's tough too, because you run sims on these things. Like there's only one result based on a lot of variables that are random. So
what do you mean by that? You lost me a little bit.
So a president makes a decision. It's essentially like the flap of a butterfly's wings.
Yep.
Like what results of that is like, it's really hard to predict.
Sure.
The result of that, though, you can see the way it plays out, but you play that same scenario out 1,000 times, you might have had the 1 out of 1,000 result. Whereas like 999 times, something else happens. We don't live in a situation where we could run that sim. I mean, you could, but people like you can't run that situation over and over again in real time and see and like check the score on that decision.
I see what you're saying.
But there are ways to objectively hold people accountable to their opinions based on the results of decisions and et cetera. There's a thing called a Breyer Score, which again,
what's that?
It's what these people called super forecasters. Have you ever heard of like super forecasting contests? So they say like, event X is going to have, what effect will event X have on the price of gas, right? So you say, I don't know, this is tough for me because this is getting into like stuff that I don't know a whole lot about. So like a Saudi Arabian prince, let's say, rises to power. What effect is that going to have on gas prices, right? These super forecasters in these contests, you should read the book called Super Forecasters. It's amazing.
I have heard of that. Who wrote that?
I forget, but it's a great book.
It's not in my queue, but it's like in my recommendeds.
Yeah. So it's so basically this person ran this study with these super forecasters, and they answered questions like this. And basically, because his decisions the results of his decisions are largely based on a large amount of variables that are essentially random. There's cognitive behavior, the responses to things, like all that. Like because it's really hard to say like, okay, I said that there's a 75% chance that the price of gas will go up based on the Saudi Arabian prince's actions, right? So in a contest where you're actually trying to hold people accountable to those types of predictions, there's something called a Breyer Score where I have to assign a 67% chance likelihood that the price of gas will increase, right? And the Breyer Score takes that and compares it to what happened, and if you are correct, as in 67% chance yes, and the price of gas goes up, you get more points because you were 67% confident as opposed to being 51% confident.
So they give you points on a
confidence level, confidence scale.
On scale. So, you know, 67 correct is worth more than 51 correct, but 67 wrong and being wrong is worth more to the downside than 51 being wrong. And so then they do it off of every prediction so they can create an overall score, not just like, oh, you got it wrong, boo-boo this one time.
Yeah, because like right and wrong is binary. You're essentially creating a scale of correctness, which I guess kind of takes out the fact that you can't run these situations over and over again infinitely, which would be ideal. That would be where you truly get the objective result of what happened. It's very much in the weeds right there.
That's great, though.
But a real world example of that is gambling, right? So if I think that the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl and I am 100% confident, I'll put my net worth on it, right? If I'm correct, I double my net worth, right? If I'm kind of confident, I put $50 on it, you know? Like I'm essentially assigning a confidence level with the amount of my bet. And that's what this percentage is, and that's how you get your Breyer score.
Same concept.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
But there's no equivalent to that. There's no equivalent accountability to that when these pundits, who are pussies, because they do not like when people call them out on their shit.
They don't. No.
And all you have to do to be like an anchor is you just have to be super right about something one time.
To be a commentator.
Yeah, for people to believe you, like to get a following, like you got to be right about a few things a few times.
And they live off that.
And everything after that, like you see it in sports, you see it And like, you just have to be right about a few things a few times early in your career, and you get a following, and that following will never check you, which is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you end up drawing it on the political lines, but I don't want to do that. I just want to say objectively, the fact that the media hated Trump so much drew them to literally anything but Trump makes them feel great. So you see it with Biden. I just said
is like everything that they did with Trump, like Trump did this, so this is going to happen. No one on the left was checking the left.
Could you imagine if Trump had done 18 or whatever it was executive orders in the first 4 days? And by the way, I'm just using math of the number of executive orders Biden did. If you go issue by issue, maybe they're not a big deal or whatever. But could you imagine the hoopla that would have had? Whereas when Biden did it,
I mean,
fucking Sean Hannity's talking about it, but no one gives a shit other than the people that are already in the tank.
How many were there? 18 were undoing Trump's things.
I think a fair number of them.
Most of them were.
Yeah.
So that's not a fair comparison. And Trump did do some, in my opinion.
Well, how's it not fair if Trump didn't do it to undoing Obama's things? And then let's also go very objective here. Let's forget the names Trump, Obama, and Biden.
He just didn't do it the first day. He did a lot of undoing. Just it took him a lot longer.
He did. So, and that's what they're saying. The rate of this appears that, and again, you don't know, over time, are they going to do much, much more than he did? Forget the belief systems, because that can be politically argued. But how much of that is like you saying, well, because I like my political belief better and my political belief maybe lines up with Joe Biden's, therefore it was the right thing to do, versus, well, that's my belief, but another person who's not a bad person thinks differently. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm in a weird political spot because in most of my conversations, if I'm having it with somebody who is very clearly left or very clearly right, they're pissed off at me at the end. It's just the way it goes. And then I've had 2 conversations on this podcast that were really pleasant, where I had someone very left and then another one where someone was very right, and they went the opposite, because maybe some of the topics we talked about really skewed to things that I was like, I kind of fuck with that, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the outlier. The negative part is when people are coming at you. But what I try to do radically is be like, okay, I'm a strong believer the answer is in the middle on a lot of things, just based on averages. God forbid I try to bring that up, though. People say, well, no, that means that you're condoning the left principle or the right principle that we say is wrong. It's not like, you can't just sit there and say everyone on the left is a snowflake jerk-off with no job and everyone on the right is a Nazi. These are ridiculous sentiments. Are there people on the far fringes of both sides that you can say that about? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
But we end up taking those, call it 5 to 10%, if it's that much, on each side, and making that
that's
all
yes,
attention
and that's
rule.
No.
Yes.
That's right and that's wrong.
That's my problem.
I just made the argument that having a spectrum of percentages is like objectively the best way to kind of assign value to decision making, and just society just doesn't do that.
Yeah, and I think about it a lot with this guy, Walter Cronkite, on my wall, because it's not like I was alive when he was a reporter, but he's widely regarded as the guy who invented reporting on TV, or was the face of it, and this brilliant reporter. And I remember learning about it in social studies, and it's a tough moral question for me, because the specific thing I'm referring to that we learned about was Walter Cronkite was on the ground in Vietnam reporting. And that was really the first time on TV that, reporters were reporting live from a war. And it's I don't want to say universally, but a generally agreed upon point that the Vietnam War was a massive failure, didn't have the right the right intentions behind it, and whatever. And there were a lot of problems because a lot of people got fucked up in that war or died.
Yeah.
And in the context of history, Walter Cronkite reported on that, and he very clearly took that opinion publicly. I think he's been proven right by that opinion. 100% agree. It's a slippery slope argument, though, because I look at that and I go, well, in that instance, he was 100% right, in my opinion. I don't really think you can argue that. But he then did he set precedent for reporters after him to then say, well, you know what, I feel strongly about this, so I'll take this stance. And I have the same question, like a guy who I'm devastated didn't get pardoned, is Edward Snowden. the one question that's not really his fault, I mean, it's just unfortunately psychology of humans, is because he did that, even if he was right in breaking the chain of command, what does the next guy then say, well, this is enough for me to break it? And then the next guy and the next guy. It's a tough thing. Like it's a shit or a fart. You're fucked either way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, like, for me, again, it's probably pretty clear that I'm pretty left. I think we're going to look back on the reporting that was done on Donald Trump, and more of the reporting that kind of vilified him will be correct than not. I think, like, for the issues that I care about, at least.
That's a very good stipulation.
So, like I said, I'm not a markets guy. So he probably did some cool shit for the economy. Probably did some great stuff for that. Like, but to me, like, the way the effect that he had on the students that I teach, history is not going to look kindly upon him.
I agree.
I had to answer the question more than once throughout his presidency if I was going to get sent, like, not me, but a student would say to me, am I going to get sent back to Africa? So yeah, like, the effect he had on my students, like, his presidency was, to a certain degree, depending on how you define trauma, was traumatizing.
I could see that argument.
And I think it was traumatizing in the way that middle school students should not be thinking that much about the president. Honestly.
Agreed.
And they were. A lot.
Someone, I think it was Anthony Beccari, was in here, and you know, he's someone who's he was my bookie. I brought in here is one of the funniest fucking humans of all time, and he looks at things so objectively and, like, in his own lane. He's not political at all, but he was like, you know, if you're waking up, and he said, I know there's some people who think with, you know, this policy or whatever, they're going to be dead or shit like that. And he's like, look, I'm not going to speak for them. Like, I know what I know. I know what my life is, you know, white male in New Jersey. It is what it is. But he's like, in general, more times than not, especially today with the access to communication and information being tossed around and information to push back against things that are wrong. If you, as an average citizen, are waking up every day and one of the first things, or the first thing you think is, X person is president and that is fucking my day or making my day incredible, he's like, your priorities are in the wrong place, and you're putting it on a pedestal that is actually way too fucking high. I don't really disagree with that. You know, I think there's enough of, if someone's doing shit that you determine evil, and maybe there were some things Trump was doing that people on the left determine evil. Okay, fine. There's enough, especially if it's the right in power and the left being able to push back, especially with the media arm and all that. There's enough pushback that it's held in check. That's why there's not a fucking wall. You know, and immigration, you know, as far as, like, campaign promises that weren't followed through, immigration wasn't stemmed at all. You know, it's like any of the things that Trump was complaining about, right or wrong, that they're still there.
That push and pull is good. Push and pull is good. It's the wisdom of the crowd, essentially. That's good. But I think that the president, like, a good gauge of the president's legacy is how is he looked at by the kids who really don't have a whole lot of skin in the game. And I mean, to me, like, they were thinking a lot about the president.
Yep.
And I mean, like I said, that's what I care about. And I mean, it's just like, if we're going to talk about this and I have this platform, I would not, I can't leave here without saying things like that. And I want to, before I move on, like, talk about how I am an imperfect ally. You know what I mean? I grew up in a small town. Like, racism is baked into me, in my subconscious. And
what do you mean racism is
so
baked into you?
Implicit bias? Okay.
Why do you call it? All right, and I want to just make sure we're staying on topic here. I want to make sure I understand. Why do you call that racism?
So, racism is essentially it's an abuse of power. It's the definition of racism, in my opinion, is a lot like the definition of bullying. Okay, there's a power dynamic where people in power are taking advantage of people not in power, and it's repetitive. Okay, and that is the definition of racism. And racism, as far as that, like, part of that abuse of power is implicit bias. Okay, so who has access to institutions? Who has access to certain networks? Okay, and as an imperfect ally is that I grew up with a lot of those messages kind of baked into my subconscious, right? The way I interacted with people growing up and the way I interacted with people in college was abhorrent, in my opinion. I don't regret it, but I was very ignorant, and I'm every day, one of the things that drives me is growing out of that mindset, which is largely subconscious.
How so? Like when you say earlier in life, college, before, because these things are baked into you, what things do you view as abhorrent? Like just day to day? So like,
saying this on a podcast is dangerous, but I think part of anti-racism is owning up to your previous actions while also acknowledging that you have the ability to grow and grow from them. Like the way I interact with people and their experience mostly is like I didn't value their experience. Like when someone, a person of color, and was telling me like I work twice as hard to get half of what you get, I might not have believed them, right? And in reality, the truth of the matter is that is more true than not. Okay, you're assigning like that number values twice as much for half, but
sure.
A good example I saw on the news the other day is Misty Copeland. Do you know who Misty Copeland is? She's a ballerina.
No, I don't know.
She's on I don't know the exact company or whatever, but she's like the biggest company on New York. Is like,
okay.
She's the first black ballerina on this whatever on the New York ballerina whatever, and like for her to access that institution, she had to sacrifice her blackness. She had to wear her hair a certain way. She had to put certain makeup on to make herself appear lighter. You know what I mean? Like that is an experience that I don't know that people understand, and I cannot communicate that well enough, like as a white person. But I just see it, and I don't think that I valued that enough growing up. I also didn't encounter a very diverse population growing up until I got to college, and Bucknell was not a very diverse school. But in my interactions with people in school, like I just did not value people's experiences.
I don't disagree with the point you just made. I want to have you extrapolate on an example though to actually put it for people. Like I can think of some things, but I want to make sure people know we have this in the right context. So you talk about she had to sacrifice some of her blackness to get to where she got. Well, I want you to define some of that exactly. But then I also want you to relate it to something in my opinion, that's way more simple and way less intrusive or invasive on your personal freedom or your ability to get what you want. And that would be something like the industry I came from. And I'm a white dude, right? So, you see me now on a podcast, Corona, I just haven't cut my hair during Corona. It's down to my fucking, past my shoulders. And, I wear a hat. Could never do this working on Wall Street. Could never do this. I get fucking thrown out. I can't wear a hat. I got to walk in there in a button down and shit. My hair can't be, I guess some guys pull it off after they're very, very successful, and it's rare. As you're coming up in the industry, like I better cut my fucking hair. So where people would push back, people who are maybe, I don't want to even say ignorant, but some of them are just straight up ignorant. They'd say, well, we got to do that too. You just got to fit in or whatever. What are some of the things that make it different for someone like Misty Copeland, you said her name was? Coming into, she spent her whole life trying to be a ballerina and get to the top of her game, which she did. Like what kinds of things are like, oh, that's not just like playing the game. It was a standard. There were standards that she had to hold herself to that her fellow ballerinas didn't because of the color of their skin. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what would some of those things be? Pretend I'm ignorant.
So one of those things would be is like I can't look at a ballerina company and see a successful black woman ballerina. Therefore, I can't automatically compare her to anything. Therefore, allowing her into that institution is somewhat of a risk because there's never been anyone like her before in that institution. So why bias? Deep-rooted bias that when this company was formed, there was probably a rule that said people of color were not allowed to access that institution, right? And of course, like you drop that, but it takes a lot of time for that to actually play out.
Because there's some sort of inherent, understood, passed down prejudice that maybe a lot of people who have it don't recognize they have. It's not from an evil place, but it's just kind of built in like, oh, that looks different.
Yeah.
I do not
So
disagree with that.
That's what affirmative action tries to accomplish, is eliminating that bias. Whereas we just give, if anyone can reach that level to where they're in the room getting an interview, they get an inherent advantage according to affirmative action. Now, you can disagree with that because again, there's a certain point where, like, from a utility standpoint, like, you want it the best hire, right? But we're bad at interviewing people, number one. And number two, like, I just think, like, that bias is so baked in that you got to kind of, like, just try to eliminate that. And the only way to eliminate that is if you reach a certain point, you get it. You know what I mean? If you reach a certain point and a white counterpart reaches the same certain point, we can say that you are just as qualified. And because there is less representation for people that look like you, you deserve this chance over the person who was white. Okay? And people have a really, really hard time with that.
Yeah,
because
do.
It's the difference between equity and equality, right? Equality is everyone gets the same thing, everyone gets the same shot. You know what I mean? Equity is everyone gets what they need. The person of color needs a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt in that situation, or a little bit of, like, that baked in privilege of, oh, I don't have an uncle in this company that can vouch for me, right? So I need affirmative action is my uncle that will vouch for me. You know what I mean? So that's what you get. And yes, that person, like, the difference is between those two people is that might be the person of color's only chance to access that network, to access that institution. Whereas the white person, if they made it that far, they're probably going to make it that far somewhere else. You know what I mean? Just because that white person has privilege, because they do not have to bear the brunt of bias, of prejudice. Which, whether you believe that exists or not, I guess that's where we fundamentally disagree.
I can't, and I'm trying to process everything you just said, and I hate to say this, but I do love this topic because it's a philosophical topic, and I hate that we have to love a topic like this and talk about it, but we do, right? Because these are realities we face. Most of what you just said, I agree with, and I think that you also can't argue with data around it, right? So you see, and you talk about that definition between equity and equality, and when put in the correct lens, I think it is a conversation that has to happen. What ends up happening is sometimes people on the left will hijack it and turn it into a socialism argument, which then people on the right hate, right? And then they just rail against it that way and ignore the overall issue that was brought up. Sometimes people on the right will take when the left is putting it correctly and hijack it and make it socialism when that's not what they're saying. And the way you just put it, I thought was brilliant, because it was not based on it was not based on the economic impact. It was based on the opportunity. Now, I mean, this would be a whole podcast in and of itself. So I want to stay with.
I would prefer if, like, from a certain point on, that this was just us talking. I don't know if I'm super comfortable with having, because this is kind of very close to, like, my job, and, like, I did reveal, like, a little bit more than I would have liked to.
But you didn't, to be clear, and I get to listen. You know, you're in the moment talking. Everything you said was put in an educated manner. In a deliberate way. You didn't say anything that even approached controversial.
Relative to you, but as far as, like, I was speaking about the black experience about a white person, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that being out there. You know what I mean?
Fair. So the one thing I do want to go to on this, though, before we get off it, based on what you just said, is where I start to see the circle of life on this having a bad effect is on some of the reverse racism that can come out of it. Now, what I want is a utopian world where we define people on the content of character and not the color of skin or background of religion, creed, whatever it is. Everyone is just free to go after what they want to go after and have the same level of competition in that way. And
that would be great for capitalism. Because essentially everyone has a fair shot, and therefore the cream will rise to the top. That's not the case.
Agree with you. Actually, yes, it would be a great case for capitalism.
I have a huge problem with the term reverse racism, because, again, the way I define racism is power plus race prejudice.
Yes. And
as a white person, we hold the power objectively.
So objectively, sometimes and it's the minority of situations, in my opinion, but where we have seen, and I'll give an example here, where we have seen it go the wrong way and not get the intended result, by the way, it ends up hurting the overall objective, is where you end up over delting on it and then causing, whether it be like people talk about like racial apologies, like I'm sorry for being white or shit like that. Those are extreme examples. I don't mean that. I'm saying like where people suddenly start coming out and, they automatically go for diversity over like, okay, well, how qualified is everyone here and how much is the gap based on where you started? One example I always give of a rule that I hate because I think it ends up being backwards for coaches of color is the Rooney Rule in the NFL. Now, to give context, the guys who created this rule, I believe it was Art Rooney II, one of the Rooneys with the Steelers, I think had brilliant objectives. I don't think there was a bad bone in his body in making it. Fully support his objectives in making it. And what the rule is that every NFL team, and there are 32 now, has to interview at least one coach of color as a candidate in the hiring process. The problem with this is that two things. The number of white coaches to black coaches is obviously more because in society there are more white than black or coaches of color, right? There's still more at this point in time. Secondly, we end up seeing, I don't even know what word to use, but I'll just say like we end up seeing coaches get used. And I'm not talking about white coaches. I'm talking about black coaches getting used. And what I mean by that is there are teams who maybe they have a coach, right? And they have a dream coach in mind. Give an example. The Raiders, a couple years back. The Raiders had wanted to get John Gruden back for years. They had wanted to rehire him for like 8 years or however long it was. It was a dream. So they knew that if they could convince him to leave the Monday Night Football booth, they were going to not only hire him, but pay him a ridiculous contract.
Yeah.
So they go to fire, maybe it was Jack Del Rio, somebody who was right before them.
I think it was Jack Del Rio.
Yeah, so they go to fire him, and then they find out that he's in. Like, he wants to do it. What did the Raiders have to do?
They had to hire, or they had to interview a person of color.
Yeah. So they had to call it. I believe they did one of their coaches. I could be wrong on that. In other examples, it has been like a current coach on a team. Yeah. And here's how this is not how the conversation officially goes, but this is the connotation of that conversation. Owner picks up the phone. Yeah, hi, so-and-so, black coach X. All right, so you and I both know we're going to hire John Gruden. We want to do that. But we have to comply with this Rooney Rule. And they weren't hiring John Gruden because he was white. They were hiring John Gruden because he was a Super Bowl winning coach who they've been after for years. It has nothing to do with skin color. They're like, but because we got to follow that rule, can you do us a huge favor? You're a black guy. Can you just come in and it's a sham interview, but can you interview with us? We'll ask you some questions and be able to say, check, we did it.
Yeah.
It turns that guy based on the color of his skin who might be a great coach, might be a terrible one. No idea. Doesn't matter. It turns him into a tokenized object.
Yeah.
And to me, this is just one example, right? I believe that the majority of situations support what you're saying, which is that the institutions in America favor the party in power, and in this case, the party being like white, right? Agree with that. What we need to look at, because I always look at slippery slopes, we talked about it on other things, is where are we letting that happen to where it goes so hard the other direction that not only do you have quote unquote whites losing, everybody loses. To me, the Rooney Rule, everyone loses. And by the way, I think we have the least number of black head coaches in the NFL in like 15 years right now. I mean, it's like disgraceful at the end of the day. And if you look at I talked about the distribution of white coaches to black coaches, I believe, and we'll check this after, the distribution of black head coaches to white head coaches, that percentage is lower than the percentage of black overall football coaches in the league to overall white coaches. So you have fucked like the standard. The standard should be if you wanted to have the equality of outcomes, the standard should be at least at that level of what is the number of blacks to whites. So we've like defeated the purpose with a rule that I don't think was created to defeat the purpose.
Yeah, I think the rule was put in place because when there was none. I think it accomplished it accomplished a lot in the sense of that it gave access to the institution of being a head coach, an assistant coordinator. Maybe it has outgrown that. Because I think that like if a coach is a person of color and has the chops, has the record, they'll get the interview. Whereas when the Rooney Rule was made, it didn't matter how good of a coach you were, you probably weren't going to get the interview.
I don't disagree with that.
And so it might have outgrown it, you know what I mean? Where it's now doing really a lot of things that it wasn't intended to do, like tokenizing those people.
I hate that word,
So maybe,
but that's how I gotta put it, because it's like the
So maybe we need to do away with it and see what happens, because it might actually be doing more harm than good. But at the end of the day, does the population of black head coaches reflect the population of does the population of people of color in coaching reflect the population of people of color in the league? No.
Yeah, I don't think it does. Right
I don't think it should ever. I don't think it will ever, or can ever. Maybe should it be a complete one-to-one reflection? Maybe, but it's certainly not close, and it should be closer.
Yeah,
and maybe the Rooney Rule is not the answer, but I think that it certainly helped move us forward since that time.
And that's a good point. It doesn't mean that when it was created, it didn't do net positive.
Mm-hmm. There's probably plenty of coaches that can trace their shot back to that.
And by the way, the Steelers, who have been owned by the Rooneys forever, they walk the talk with that. Mm-hmm. First of all, they're very good at keeping coaches for a long time. They believe in building a culture. They've done that. I think they've had 3 coaches in like the last 50-some years. Mm-hmm. And guess who their coach is now for the last 13, 14 years? Mike Tomlin, who is a black head coach who wasn't, he's obviously been aged as a fantastic coach now. But they also took a chance on hiring him because he was never like an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. They just saw a leader, and they have given him the chance to be great for years. So they walk the talk with that. And you raise a good point. Like, okay, is something created that is a net positive, clear net gain? Eventually, does it have diminishing returns and become a net loss? How do you then determine, what are the metrics to determine that?
I think you have to, I think where we're going with this is, let's do away with the Rooney Rule and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think you have to attack it from the other way. You have to implement some type of rule that combats nepotism, which I think is a huge problem in the NFL. So I think that is the bigger issue right now, is not head coaches of color getting access to interviews. I think for largely, again, this is where I'm uncomfortable talking about the black experience as a white person, because if you ask a person of color what their experience is, they may disagree with this. But largely, I think that head coaches of color do get access to interviews more so, or maybe to a degree that is a little bit more fair or equitable. Whereas nepotism is rampant. Like, look at the Vikings. I just heard something about the Vikings. Gary Kubiak's nephew, son, whatever. He's the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. He does not deserve that job, objectively. He does not have the track record. Like, he's just a Kubiak. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you combat that. That's sticky. That's icky.
Yeah, which some people could argue against, and I know nothing about it. But I agree with you because you see a lot of it. Belichick's son is a coordinator. Andy Reid's son, who actually just got fired because of his stuff off the field. Linebackers coach, like serious position coach. So yeah, I agree. And then again, it's a case-by-case basis. Do some guys have the track record? That one I don't know. Other guys I could say, yeah, I don't think he would have ever had that if he didn't have X last name, So it's an interesting conversation. We could do a whole podcast on it, but I think you spoke on that very, very well. I know obviously like it hits close to home because of what you do every day and who you do it with and your student population and understanding that. So, to be able to speak clearly on it and speak to somebody like me who's not in that environment and have me take it like you coming from a good place, I think is a very good result for you.
So the thing is like, one of the reasons why I love teaching and my school specifically is I think we do a really good job of giving our students access to networks they otherwise wouldn't have access to institutions they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So we have students that are going to schools like high profile, like private schools like Penn Charter, etc. But like we also have students going to like vocational schools, which I mean they probably would have been able to get there without us, but behind them, they have the network of us, which is essentially the Episcopal Church, the network that we have access to, they have access to. We take plenty of field trips. We partner with mentors and everything. So that is a big deal, I think, in education. And our public schools aren't giving access to that type of thing to students of color. Even in like the great public school systems, they're not doing that. Maybe they're doing it, but they're not doing it well. And yeah, so I don't know where I'm going with that. Yeah, the whole thing.
It's kind of, well, you're stating things that I think are backed up by serious evidence.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's the reason why I do what I do, and I think why I'm pretty bullish on my school.
Yeah, well, your passion rings through, and I know. Sorry, I was just choking on some water there, but I know you coming in here was around Top Shot and everything, like we said, and we had a great long conversation on that. But I like that we went into a totally off the road turn with some topics around stuff that's personal to you, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't say anything, but another thing I did want to at least ask you some things about, and obviously, like, now we've been doing this a while and we're almost out of time here, so we're not going to get into it as much as I want to. But you are teaching, as you've mentioned during this whole thing, and you're teaching, regardless of who you're teaching during a time that's hard for all teachers and all students, because we're in Corona, and I know for a long time you were completely remote, and you can talk about that, but now you're seemingly mostly in person. From the outside, I feel very lucky and fortunate that I am not a kid who's in school, and that even goes up to college and stuff, because of the trajectory of learning that was yanked from people for a long time there, whether it be 2 semesters or even still so now, with people, regardless of age, depending on where they're at, still being totally remote or even partially remote. What have you seen from your seat, having been remote for a long time and seeing like the different world we're in, as far as like the progress of your students over the last year, and how Corona has affected the projected trajectory that you would have wanted for them without Corona having happened?
Honestly, this might be surprising, but it leveled the playing field a little bit. Honestly.
What do you mean by that?
So there's an education gap where my students come into 4th grade at my school 2, 3, 4 grade levels behind in reading and math, right? This kind of put everyone on a little bit more level of a playing field. Right. So first of all, you gotta rewind why they're coming to us from schools that aren't very good, because they're in neighborhoods where property taxes are lower, therefore the schools get lower resources, and it's just because school funding is tied to a certain extent to property taxes. Areas that are desirable to live in have better schools, and it kind of is like a positive feedback loop.
Yep.
If you have a good school, people are going to want to live there. They'll pay more taxes or whatever. They'll buy more expensive homes, which therefore can be taxed more. That's my understanding of it. So because of that, they're coming to us from not so great schools, right? And when Corona hit, everyone went to a virtual school, which kind of eliminated some of the advantages, right? So our school is actually doing really well. Like, our test scores are phenomenal because we did COVID learning very, very well. And I think that we're very unique in that. So I might not be the best person. Just we have resources. We were able to buy every kid a laptop like right away. We were able to do online learning and have a schedule that was basically the same schedule that they would have in person, just all virtual.
And you didn't see a big loss in retention through that?
So the end of the school year last year was rough. They basically, like, we weren't able to do much other than we had them come to the school like every day if they could, maybe once a week, to like get food and check in and just say hi. I was assigning a lot of like what we call asynchronous work, where like I just assign it and they do it, and I'm on Zoom if they need help. And not a lot of kids were doing that work. Yeah. But what we were assigning, they were reading, they were doing some stuff because their test scores like are really good. And a lot of that progress we're seeing is relative, okay? Because a lot of standardized testing is not, you reach score 55, you're proficient. It's, no, what percentile are you on the scale? And the messed up thing with it is that these under-resourced schools are being held to the same standard as the very well-resourced schools, and the very well-resourced schools are setting the curve. That's where the enormous inequity is in education, is that if we change the way we did, and instead of saying, like, if I'm a school teacher in West Philly at an under-resourced school, I don't need to beat the suburban kids, I just need to hit this mark. You know what I mean? Yep. Standardized testing is incredibly good at reinforcing the hierarchy. You know what I mean? Because if I'm a school teacher in West Philly, like I said, like I can teach them all the words, I can teach them everything. But if it was easier for the kids in the suburbs to learn them, they're going to score higher than my kids. And I'm working so hard not only to get them to that level, but to catch them up.
You're saying it's easier for the kids in the suburbs to do it because of their prior education advantage.
Well, I mean, it starts at like a
age.
very
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the number one leg up that well-resourced areas have is like access to pre-K. And that's a big one.
No one talks about that.
Yeah, that's pretty big in the education circles.
That's what I'm saying. Like
access.
in your circles, it is, but the general public.
And unfortunately, I don't know that there's a lot of backing politically for like universal pre-K, like government funded. I think in like really like Philly is getting there, hopefully. So it starts there, and then it's like reinforced over and over and over again. It's like a pipeline, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's a big thing, and it's like their schools are well resourced from the beginning, whereas like largely in these under resourced neighborhoods, is the teacher good, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad teachers because it's easy to become a teacher. And why is it easy to become a teacher? Because we don't pay teachers that well. Yeah. Compared to if I'm a really smart person, like, and I have the intelligence to teach really well. Here's a cool example, another flex from me. The amount of decisions I make in a day is equal to or greater than the amount of decisions a brain surgeon makes, objectively. In a classroom full of 30 students, in a 8-hour day, the amount of decisions that I have to make, and if we want to say the amount of decisions you have to make is relative to how difficult your job is equal to or greater than that of a brain surgeon. And
that's a loaded one.
And the amount of decisions I'm making are maybe a lower stakes, but it depends on what you define as high. These are lives. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I should bring you in here and do a whole separate podcast on these topics, because we would just go off forever.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but that's kind of like where the inequity kind of reinforces, and and you get these really big gaps because, I mean, and is that a feature or is that a bug? You know what I mean?
I like how you put that. Now, you mentioned, though, that in your particular situation, it appears as if COVID has been more positive than the average school or the average student.
Yeah. Okay. Because, like I said, all of that inequity, like those fancy computers that they get, like my school was positioned to give that access, right? And on top of that, another flex, we have very high-level teachers at my school. Yeah. So our teachers were probably a little bit more adaptable to a virtual learning environment than maybe even like the suburban teachers were, right? And I'm saying like suburban versus urban. That's not fair. We'll split into resource versus under resourced.
Yeah, because it's a little bit too much of a generalization. Yeah. I like the second one better. I agree.
And on top of that, like I'm teaching in a neighborhood that is under resourced, but my school itself is very well resourced. So that's another thing is like
it's an outlier.
We kind of very much an outlier. So we kind of cut out that variable, right? And then you bring in another variable. Okay, all of a sudden we're all virtual. Okay, who's best equipped? Okay, so if I have the same resources as middle school B, and middle school B is teaching in a more well-resourced neighborhood, okay, we're gonna see who's the better teachers, right? So our test scores say that we are. You know what I mean? And it'd be interesting to see the data between like a public school in an under-resourced neighborhood versus a public school in a well-resourced neighborhood. I don't know if you would see like something like the test scores kind of stayed where they were before COVID, or it got worse. Everyone dropped.
Yeah.
Did the well-resourced public school drop more or less?
Or do you think we've seen enough results now to be able to say for sure with COVID, or is there still, you kind of need to see it 3, 4, 5 years down the line?
Everything's so messed up right now. It's going to be, everyone took a hit, even us.
Well, one last question on it, because this is like kind of the heart of the issue. There's been a lot of controversy around how especially in the public sector schools, how governments have decided local governments, whatever, what schools are open, what the schedule is, remote versus in person versus all remote, all in person. And assuming your situation is more of an outlier, there has been a large net loss in the public school sector, it appears, and we need to see data down the line here, in net learning and net productivity and therefore net education over the last year or so. What have your thoughts been around how, with Corona, this unprecedented virus that until now didn't have vaccines, highly contagious, whatever. What were your thoughts around, in retrospect, how the government handled it with shutting down schools, and then also, even to this day, in many cases, not reopening them and not doing it at capacity?
I think it's a really hard problem to solve. We were able to solve it faster than most because we're small and well-resourced. Enough time has passed where our government, local, national, should have figured something out. It is one of the biggest things I think future generations will look back on us and say, they opened up outdoor dining before schools. They put money, time, and effort into opening up X, Y, and Z before schools. Doesn't matter what it is, before schools, because it's essentially, when you're layering restrictions, you got to layer them in a way that covers up all the holes. Okay, it's like Swiss cheese, right? As we get vaccinated, as you start to pull off layers. So one of those first layers that should have been pulled off should have been schools, and it wasn't. And that's a problem. It shows that we do not value education as a society.
I'm biased on this because I have some cousins who I'm close with who have been teachers for years, and they're very, very much like you. They're very, very informed on this stuff, and they've been talking about it for years. And so I could see from the outside that there's a lot of broken things in our education system. If you just take a glance, like just a basic high level in the air glance, you can see it. But hearing details over and over again, maybe some of it's confirmation bias on my end, but I agree. And I think that net overall, your situation aside, really bad situations aside, okay situations aside, just putting them all together, net, we are going to see some downstream effects that are not positive in the next few years. And, I'm also, in the camp that there's a personal responsibility to things, and, governments have fucked up at every level along this entire thing, state, local, federal, whole nine. I can point to a million fucking things. And I think that you saying that us looking back and judging harshly on not opening up schools is going to be correct. I agree with you. And I just happen to put in the same lens the overall economy and the overall ability for human beings to go out and make decisions for themselves. And that's a whole separate conversation, but I appreciate you making the point and leaving it in the sand like that as a clear line, because, look, I think that commentary is going to age well. And I think you've had enough time now also taking into account your own bias of your own situation to then look at the full playing field and say, like, yeah, there's some problems here. And I think that's admirable for a teacher to be able to say that.
The problem of reopening, like, let's say something like outdoor dining, I think that's an easier problem to solve and might take less overall like resources than opening up public school systems. That's a tough problem to solve. Enough time has passed where we should have figured it out by now. No
one wants to be the first, Nick. No one wants to be the first to get sued.
And also on top of that, like, I mean, it takes a special kind of person to teach during a pandemic in person, without being vaccinated. But to me, like, if you're in it for the right reasons, like, this is very much an opinion. If you're in it for the right reasons, like, I not once like thought about that. You know what I mean?
Good for you.
Like, even the risk involved is like, it's like, I mean, even if the risk was high, like, if the opportunity is there to like be in front of the kids and teach them, like, that's part of why I took up the profession. You know what I mean? Because schools are not just places where kids sit down and learn. They're essentially, when they are like working properly, they're community hubs. Yeah. And it was me for it would have been a no-brainer to just open up community hubs and have those be like areas where kids are getting their meals and stuff like that. And yeah, it's tough though, because there's a lot of variables in that. But I think we kind of completely were like, we'll just keep them closed. We'll worry about this stuff because people seem to value that a little bit more. And there had to be some type of give and take there, and there was no give to the school. There was a lot of take.
Well, we can be objective and look at this the same way we've looked at other issues in this podcast, where you look at data, you look at hard numbers. And the fact, first of all, I appreciate that was your mindset, and you are clearly a guy who's in this for the right reasons and loves what he does and has backed it up with every action you've taken over the last 8 years of your life. Yeah. But, the fact of the matter is, yes, have we seen people who are 20 years old die of coronavirus? We have. We have.
Yeah. So but, again, I don't think so. Like the Philly teachers had a big strike because they were going to open up the schools without giving them before. So it was like 1A is like frontline healthcare workers, et cetera. 1B was teachers.
Well, so, there's a difference too between the 65-year-old teacher who's maybe a touch overweight and you. That's my point. Yeah. You and your kids. If I want people getting corona, I want you getting it because the data shows me you are, in all likelihood, minus comorbidities and stuff, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, what I was getting at is like the teachers striking. I'm not saying they're bad teachers; they're in it for the wrong reasons, et cetera. Like I think that they actually got some stuff done. Like CHOP is vaccinating like basically all Philadelphia public school teachers.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know.
So there's like a pipeline right there. So they got something done, which I think is good. But at the same time, like it's just like. I don't know. It's tough because, again, I guess I can't blame the government because what were they going to do? Open it up before vaccinations like 3 months ago? Like apparently teachers weren't going to go into the classroom. So I get it from that standpoint. So yeah, I guess like when I say that we'll look back and blame the government for not opening up schools, like you can't. It's not fully on them. It's just like a really shitty situation, and that's what people struggle with this whole corona. It just sucks. Yeah. And there has to be sacrifices. And no one's life is as good as it was before corona. No. And like we try to blame people for that. And it's random. It was a random event. And we're trying to blame the government for how they're handling it. I do think that more often than not, even the people in power are probably doing their best. And there's that push and pull. And I mean, there's plenty of people in there that are in it for personal gain, or they're trying to help a certain group of people that they believe deserve something more than others. But at the end of the day, like in this situation, like it doesn't matter. Like everybody's losing, and that's why everybody's upset, and that's why like people are losing faith in the government. People are losing faith in the economy, but the economy's doing fine now. But yeah.
If I touch that one, we'll be here for like another 4 hours. Yeah. So that's a good spot to leave it. But listen, dude, this was great. Love that this came together quick with a very timely episode going through Top Shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing everything. And I want to track your progress there, see if you jump back in there, or especially when the NFL comes up, how hard you go in.
We're going to feast if this comes to the NFL.
All right, good. Yeah. Well, anyway, and I also appreciated the last third of that conversation going into some outside the box stuff. I thought it was really good.
Definitely.
So thanks for coming in, brother. Good to see you. It's been
good stuff.
Been too long.
See ya.
You've changed a little bit, but
yeah.
everyone else, give it a thought. Get back to me.
All right.
Peace.
Later.